I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue.
I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel.
I want to cut my off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high.
It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism.
You're always confronted with the same stupid question, does Israel have a right to exist? Does Israel have a right to exist? The real question at this point is whether the rest of the world has an obligation to put an end to this.
Hello and welcome to Right Wing Pulse. I'm your host, Matt from Foul Ball Productions, and I thank you very much for joining me on this Sunday evening, albeit a little bit later than expected. I do apologize. It has been an evening. Very chill Sunday, nothing going on, just me listening to some right-wing podcasts, playing Tiger Woods golf, and it's a great day. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. My neighbors, my lovely immigrant Hispanic neighbors, which, as I was talking about on my show this week on the Foul Ball Productions, my entire neighborhood has changed over the past 2 years. Thank you, Biden. And look, they're nice people, and they are. I'm not just saying that. They are pleasant. They have a bunch of little kids. They're sweet or whatever. But God damn it, they are the third world. They are the third world. And so, when they party on the weekends, they're leaving Modelo cans everywhere. And then I guess they had a leak upstairs in the apartment above me. And I just go into my bathroom. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, there's water coming down the walls. The entire floor of my bathroom and into my bedroom is now soaked. And so I had to call the maintenance guy for an emergency. I had to have, then the guy's got to come. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a giant dehumidifier and fan blowing in my house now. So that's why I'm late. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I'm here now. The past few weeks I've missed. I had some personal stuff come up. And then I went away to Mexico for my birthday. So it's been I'm sorry I missed the past 2 weeks. But I'm here today, and we're going to talk about some right-wing podcasts. We got a couple doozies for you today. The way it's been going the past few shows, if you guys haven't watched, hello, Ginger Anagram. Let's go. I've been sorely missing Zeb these last few weeks. Well, you're going to have to keep missing him because this is my show. Sorry, Zeb is the man, but Zeb is not here today. I think he's in the chat. Yeah, he's in the chat. Hey there, Zeb. But no, it's just me. Sorry. But the way I've been doing it kind of has been breaking down these conversations in sort of a long-form way. I've been sort of going over the bulk of a podcast and getting into all the different details and breaking down what they're saying, dissecting, agreeing, disagreeing. That's not how we're going to play it today. I have a bunch of clips, a clip each from a bunch of different podcasts. So we're going to break them down. There was one in particular. Someone a few weeks ago recommended that I check out The Reset with Rebecca Hargraves and that other guy. I don't know his name. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't know his name. And I checked them out, and I actually do like them. And I was listening to their most recent show, and Homegirl's just going after Nick. I was like, whoa, okay. Well, we're going to talk about that tonight, and that's probably where we're going to start off. Probably where we're going to break into this show tonight. But yeah, and I've got a bunch of different stuff to talk about. So we're going to get into it. We're going to have some fun. We're going to, get a little bit spicy. I'm going to say hello to who's here. Hello, Zeb. What's up, my dude? The Del Paxton, Cameron McGregor. Is that his name? Cameron McGregor? That's right. It's Cameron. Yeah. They're based. They are. They're solid. They say some pretty aggressive stuff. And I'm like, okay, they're pretty cool. But they... at least she is way off on this Fuentes thing, and we're going to talk about that. And I know the whole voting Democrat, there was a whole debate on this channel, voting Democrat in the midterms to kind of slow down the Trump administration. If you'll indulge me, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. I hope that you're not sick of it, but I know that it had a whole debate had gone on for hours on this stream earlier in the week. So I apologize if you've had enough of that conversation, but we're going there again. Christ is Lord says... I'm a Saurus. based. Word, absolutely. Jack's 55, fuck that. I will not be voting for these worthless D's. They are just out controlled as the R's. Well, we're going to break those arguments down. Smelly Balls, howdy. Hello. Smelly Balls saying Wignat Central. Is that because I'm on CP time? I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't want it to be like this. This wasn't what I planned on. I don't want to have these loud-ass fans in my house for the next 2 days so the sheetrock doesn't get black mold. Fucking pain in the ass. Anyway, but Vincent Boogaloo, hello. Brad, stick to your race no matter what. Your skin is the uniform, whether you like it or not. You know, this is that corner of the internet, folks. And if you're new here, get ready, because it's going to get spicier than that. That's right. And Ryan, talking about Rebecca. Rebecca is great, but she's influenced by that beekeeping cunt Devin, who is forever jealous of Nicholas J. Fuentes, unfortunately. I don't know who Devin is. See, I'm not really all that familiar with her. She's new to me. This is the first I've ever encountered her or anything that she's done. And like I said, she's mostly based, but I don't even know who Devin is. The other guy's Cameron, right? I think so. Great tits, all the same wood. I mean, she is quite attractive, quite a lovely lady, but she's a mother. All right? She's a wife and a mother, and you show that white nationalist some respect. Okay? All right, let's get into it. No e-girls. Cameron is great, though. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Carrick Von K, how we doing? Hello. Devin is blackpilled. Yeah, blackpilling's gay. I hate that. I'm not a fan. I do not like the blackpilling and just complete cynicism and nothing works. And it's like, then whatever. Then what are we doing? Why are you watching a political show then? Why are you even involved in discussing politics if you're just blackpilled, if nothing's going to change, if there's no hope, if there's no positivity? It's like, okay, then go fucking play fantasy football or something. You know? Go get a hobby outside of politics. Like, if you're not even mildly optimistic at the chance of change or political awakening happening, or just general insight from more and more people into a growing coalition and faction that is motivated and organized and could do something to change this country, and then what are you doing, man? Fucking beat it. I don't get blackpilling. I think it's so gay. It's so gay. And it's like, it is okay. You can be blackpilled, but just, keep it to yourself. It's like, you ever work like in a group environment, right? I used to work in bars and restaurants quite a bit. It's a very team-oriented job. And, there'd be times where you'd show up to work and you'd be like, hey, man, how you doing? And he's like, well, I'm here. And I'd always be like, bro, we don't need that. Look, no one's like pumped to wait on people or whatever. I mean, I took a lot of pride in my job because that's just the type of guy I am. But, it was like, we get it, but you can't have that energy, especially not to start the night off, dude. Because if one guy's negative like that, it just brings down the vibe on everybody. It's just like, it makes it that much harder, And it's like, I've read this book by this guy, Dr. Bob Rotella, excuse me. It's called How Champions Think. And the guy's a sports psychologist, and he was talking about all these different athletes, like really high achieving athletes, LeBron, Tiger Woods, I don't remember. It was a while ago when I read it, but it was like a lot of really elite athletes. And the thing that he said, the most consistent trait amongst all these people, these like excellent people, these, people who are achieving greatness, is this like relentless optimism, almost to the point of being like a pathology, like still believing it can work out, still believing that there's a possibility. And I resonated with that completely. And it's like if you have like a cynicism or a negativity, and I'm not saying I'm immune to this or above it, but it colors, everything you do, every action you take, every thought you have, and it's putrid, and all it does is spread dissent and negativity, and it's just bad, Blackpilling is so counterproductive for everyone around you, but also you. And it's fucking gay. Don't be a gay blackpiller. I meant the show Blackpilled. Oh, that's literally the name of the show. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. I go on this whole monologue, this whole fucking self-righteous diatribe. Like, no, that's the name of the show. Like, oh, all right, my bad. It's okay to blackpill. You just can't let it consume you. Yeah, I mean, if you could take a black pill like as like a wake-up call or getting serious about stuff, but I wouldn't even call that black pill, because black pill to me is just like pure cynicism. Like, no, it's over. Like, I think, like, the Trump fans, the people who are still MAGA fans, like, they need to come to grips with reality, take the clear pill, and realize that this is never... it was never going to happen, and it sure is not going to materialize. And if you're still clinging on, it's like, bro, you are deluding yourself. You're gaslighting yourself. You're with a woman who's running around on all over town and just getting railed, and you're pretending it's not happening. You're pretending she still loves you. Bro, she's gone. She's getting run through. All right? That's Trump to you, okay? He's got a whole other crew. They all got tiny hats, and they don't give a fuck about what happens to you. So... accept it, just be an adult, be a man, and accept this reality, and then move forward. It doesn't mean you have to quit life. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to self-delete. Sorry, we're on YouTube. But it does mean you have to be honest about these things. It does mean you have to get real about this stuff. It's funny. I'm looking at my face in this camera, and I'm starting to see my wrinkles. I'm turning 41 in like a week, and I'm starting to really, I can see it. That sucks. I don't want to get older. I want to stay young forever. Carrick, a reasonable amount of blackpilling is necessary to see things clearly, but you can't get trapped in it. Yeah, like I said, clear pilling. Like, they don't have to. It doesn't have to be. Not everything's sunshine and fucking rainbows, but it does mean, like, blackpilling, I think, is just hopelessness. That's my definition of blackpilling. Anyway, it's like recognizing that bad things exist is a real. Is like a reality that you have to exist in. You do have to walk that line and understand that this is the world you live in. But to me, that's not blackpilling. That's just like observing reality and accepting that life is suffering, and that's okay. Is blackpill the name of Devin's channel? I don't know. I'm such a fucking idiot. Different from nihilism. Nihilism, cynicism, kind of all the same types of things. I think it's just... You know what? I also think it's mentally lazy. Like, I knew a girl who, like, would refer to herself as, like, a nihilist, and I really think that's just a way of, like, giving up. It's just a way of quitting. You're, like, soft quitting life. So you don't have to, like, try to improve yourself or hope for anything good or work towards anything. You can just kind of accept the status quo. It'll never get better. I don't know. I mean, who cares? It's always shit. Like, that's just putrid to think that way. Absolutely. Especially in, like... what I think a lot of the people in this space are really genuinely trying to accomplish, which is that, a new this channel is literally called The New American Vision. And that's what we're working towards. It's like a new vision of politics, of, racial identity, of Christianity, like taking center stage in America and politics and just in general. And these things require a lot of work, and they require a lot of focus, and they require a lot of dedication and collective effort. And I don't know, if you have no hope in that, if you have you can't dare to dream there, it's like, then I don't know, man. I'd say get another hobby. I'd say get involved in something else. There's plenty of other things you can occupy your time with. Like, it doesn't have to be politics. Seriously, I mean that authentically. I used to my phone thought I was talking to it. Not you. There's plenty of ways to live your life. You don't have to listen to people talk about politics if all you're just going to be like, it's over, we're doomed. It's like, all right, then go do something else, man. Legit. Bob Rotel is a man. My dad made us use all his psychology stuff, and it was great stuff. Yeah, no, he's a real one. He's a G. He definitely... I used to read this guy, Stephen Pressfield. He wrote The War of Art, and it's kind of like a companion to like an artist's like journey, like not the book, the artist's journey, like your actual working towards accomplishing something in art. And it presses you, though. That book, like The War of Art, presses you. And Bob Rotel is the same way. It kind of makes you come to grips with, you're like, oh, I've had mental like guardrails on my potential. I put them there. I didn't realize I did that. And it's like, it's a wake up call, but it's worth it if you can. If you could take that look in the mirror and accept that about yourself. Great fucking book. Is Zeb, I imagine you mean Zeb, running a media operation now he is an entrepreneur, dude. It's limitless, okay? This is going to blow up. This has got, boundless expansion, okay? Manifest destiny, all right? I get the distributors confused with Blackpill. Oh, who was the distributors? Is that Dave Green? That's Dave Green, right? I think he was on Joe on Right Wing Coalition's channel a few weeks ago. That was the first time I found out who that guy was. There's so many niche political commentators. It's crazy. It's such a big space. But then you start to realize that there's only a handful of ones you should spend any time listening to, because there's a lot of idiots out there just peddling the same talking points. I think it was it Nick Fuentes? It might have been Fuentes that said that Oren McIntyre isn't as smart as he thinks he is. And I was like, that is so fucking spot on, because he presents himself as such an erudite intellectual. And I'm just like, yeah, but these are still basic, like, just outside of the safe space critical take. You're like, you're barely doing anything here, you know? It's like, it's one step up from being MAGA. Wow. What a contribution. What a contribution. All right, there's a lot of chat, and I appreciate the engagement, but I am going to start breaking into this show. Let's start with the reset. Let's start with Rebecca and hear what she's got to say about this with Fuentes, which I was like, bitch. I said, bitch. All right, let's see here. Is this? Oh, don't need a chat replay. All right.
The core problem here is that large parts of the dissident right have repeatedly chosen leaders based on how loudly they express our talking points. And we're so desperate to hear it. Was it last week that we talked about Trump? You know, Trump was saying stuff that we desperately wanted to hear in the public sphere. And it was so satisfying to us. It created so much momentum that we really willingly overlooked major personality flaws, major defects that affected his leadership ultimately. And we didn't set high standards for ourselves. And so
before she goes on here, I want to take this opportunity to completely agree with her. And I've said this on my show on the MFR podcast before, and I mean it with sincerity. And I don't want this to come across, I don't want this to be misinterpreted, but I think there were certain things that the left observed about Trump that were astute, that I can speak for me. I'll make I statements, but like, I think a lot of us were kind of broadly either overlooking, like willfully, or downplaying, or kind of ignoring, or not really putting the weight into it. Because I've talked with people who, would probably, they're like normies politically, probably like centrists, they'd probably go so far right as like Reagan, and like so far left as like maybe, Obama, like Bill Clinton, you know what I mean? Like Bill Clinton, Reagan, like in that kind of world. And, like I would talk about particular issues or particular things that were going on, especially when I was still pro-Trump. And I could feel that they agreed. I'd sense that they would agree with my perspective and my diagnosis of the problem, but they still just were so repulsed by Trump. And I thought that was just TDS. And to a degree it was. It certainly was. But also I feel like they were observing something like that I said that we were collectively ignoring. And Rebecca's pointing this out, you used to hear that like Trump's a scam artist and all this type of stuff. And I used to be like, shut up. That's just like you're using that as like just a slanderous attack just because you don't like what he's saying. And look, that is still broadly true, right? Like the left hated Trump when they thought he was actually going to do all the things he said he was going to do, right? If we got our golden age, if we got 100 million deportations, if we did all the tariffs and everything went according to what we had expected out of this administration, or at least someone as naive as myself had expected out of this administration, they'd still hate him. So I'm not saying the left is correct, but what I am saying is that I feel like especially, people on the left tend to be more feminine, maybe more empathetic. That's not even that fair, but like, more feminine. Let's go with that. And that kind of comes with reading people and picking up on vibes a little bit more. And so I feel like they were acute to something. They were aware of something about Trump that did play out to be right. I mean, look, we don't have to start, opening the fucking border and, emptying the prisons just because they were right about one little thing. But it is to say that, there was something that they were observing that we were broadly overlooking and they were right about. And I did find that interesting. And I thought that that's like an interesting development in this sort of political conversation that's been going on. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I guess he is just like a narcissistic scam artist. Like, I guess you were right. Like, I can't believe that is the reality, but yeah, I guess so. Let's see. Junior Williams here saying, we want to believe Trump's offbeat comments like we need to staple a green card to every visa was just Trump misspeaking so that he could be reasoned So he could be reasoned that this view is unpopular. I always thought it was just like, this is just campaign speech. He's playing himself as the centrist to, like, get the normies and get the idiots. But no, that was my naivete. I was like, he's the real deal. This is really going to happen after everything he's been through, all the stuff that he had to overcome to become the president. It's like, this is our fucking time right now. Boy, was I wrong. But I overlooked all that. I wouldn't even have heard it. Like, my buddy, he's actually kind of like a leftist. He's kind of like a Marxist. I'm getting him there slowly but surely. But because he's not like a social leftist. He's not like pro-LGBT or a feminist or anything like that. He's like a actual like intellectual leftist. Anyway, but he said before the election, he said that, Mary Matelson gave Trump like $100 million. And I remember just brushing that off, but it stuck with me and it was a real thing. And I was like, you couldn't have told me, there was really nothing you could have told me. I was in the cult back in 2024 and 2023. Like, there's nothing no information you could have offered me where I would have believed. Be like, no, you misheard them. That's a liberal media. They're lying. I wouldn't have believed you. But, it's that type of stuff that it's like those things are real. Those things are actually legitimate things that we need to be acutely aware of and not overlook. And this was a good lesson for a lot of us is that, it's like what she's saying to this point is that, just simply because someone is saying what we like to hear, that isn't really good enough. And I think that that's borne out with this entire Trump administration is just simply that if you say, if it sounds like what I want to hear, it's like, yeah, are they going to do it? Who are their connections? Who's funding them? Who do they really work for? That's the questions we need to start asking. Joe Biden. Biden 28. Let's go. Let's bring back old Joe. That's funny. Come on, man. I love the impressions that people were doing. You guys know who Kyle Dunnigan is? He used to do like a whole sketch show with him. It was very, very funny. But now let's get into what she's saying about Fuentes.
I think that there are some parallels to be drawn here about what we've also done with Nick Fuentes, that our hunger and our desire to hear the JQ become mainstream has made us just not care about anything else. And I talked about this a little bit with Devin on Outlaws last night.
Which I have to say, like, I in no way, she goes on, so there's more to talk about here, but I in no way share that perspective with her whatsoever. As soon as she said this, I was like, what exactly is she talking about? Like, I don't even know where she's going with this. Because I guess, I was such a normie for a while that I was not J-pilled, red-pilled about any of this, and it wasn't just Fuentes, but Fuentes to me is the most acute. He's the one with the most vision to can tie it all together and has no barriers on what he will explore, what ideals he'll explore, and will really get into things that have just been so taboo for so long. Like I try, because I'm older than a lot of you guys and I'm older than a lot of people that I talk to and stuff, and I try to remind them that, listen, it's like I get it. We're in a tough time with our country and there's a lot on the line. But I do really think it's important to take a moment and realize just how far the conversation has moved in just a few short years. I don't remember hearing this talked about on any level. Like, I'm 40, right? I'm currently working on a video right now that's making the case, which I'm sure you guys probably don't need to hear, but I feel like a lot of people do, making the case that we fought the Iraq war mainly for Israel's benefit. And it's so evident. I mean, I've just done just a little bit of research, and you're just like, oh my God, how is this not just always the story? But it wasn't a part of the conversation at all. I mean, you could have read, maybe if you were reading Buchanan in like 2003, maybe you were like aware to that, you were hip to that. But most people weren't. It certainly wasn't part of the mainstream discourse, not one that I ever heard. And even in the subsequent years, it never really came up. The only critics you'd ever hear is just a war for oil, or, it's for the military-industrial complex. You never heard this is like a war for Israel's domination in the region, and this is like a power play against, whatever, all their complex geopolitics that they're working on over there. But I never heard that at all. And now, like I said, I mean, it's essentially just that's just a given. That's just a, that's what that war was fought for, which most people, like I said, like that has moved so much. That was never part of the conversation. And now it's just, the sky's blue. Israel got us into the Iraq war. But that has been a new development. And that's the point I'm trying to make is like, I guess maybe for me, like the conversation has moved so much, but for her to kind of say this, like, oh yeah, like he was just saying what we wanted to hear. It's like, well, I don't know. I've never heard anyone say any of this before. I've never heard anyone go down this deep connection where he connects Epstein, to Peter Thiel, and then, back to the Trump administration and, to the CIA and the Mossad, and just has like this, he totally understands the whole network. It's like, I've never heard anyone talk in these terms about any of this. So I'm not even sure where she gets this part, like this fundamental part, as if, they've all been so acute and hip to this, and they just, Nick Fuentes was just another avatar of saying what they wanted to hear. I'm like, where were you hearing this? Like, who was talking about this that you were like, oh yeah, someone else gets it? I was like, I feel like this guy, he's crossed into he crossed the Rubicon. He's in, uncharted territory. Obviously not completely, but man, to the degree, to the breadth of work, the amount of stuff that he gets into, the amount of episodes he's put out there. It's like, I know there's people that came before him, but I don't think that they've put out quite as much work as he has. Most of them are like authors and stuff, right? I don't know. It's just weird to be so flippant with this guy right out the gate. I'm like, put some respect on his name, lady.
It hurts me that we have low self-esteem as a movement. We need to trust ourselves a little bit more. Ideas, once they hit the public sphere, we don't have to attribute them to anybody. We can just use them as opportunities to learn about what's going on, and to develop the movement and to develop our personal philosophies. And so that's really what I want to talk about, systemic leadership versus kind of the propaganda machine. I don't
Kath Monarch. I got J-Pilled super fast. Started looking into it a little bit before the 2024 election and was throwing up Romans by the new year, lol. Look, it does happen pretty fast, doesn't it? Which is, I think that's where you get a lot of like the Dan Bilzerians and the Jake Shields, guys who really aren't all that bright. And they kind of get like this download of all this information. They're just like, it's the Jews, which I get because I've kind of gone through a little bit of a phase with that too. But you do need to break. That can't literally be your constant brainwave because you will sound like a crazy person. Nick is 100% right. You do need to have research and knowledge, and you do need to know what you're talking about. It just can't be a reflexive reaction. You have to have like dates and details and names and fucking receipts and know what you're talking about. If you're going to wade into these waters, you better know what you're talking about. Seriously, because it's like you don't want to be, because it's like you hurt the actual truth if you're a bad representative of it. And we all get, we got a lot pretty quick. We got 100 years of tricks all of a sudden, all at once. It's a lot to process. There's one guy we might talk about this video if we get around to it. But I'm just going to mention it now because I think it's really interesting. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put the link in the chat for this because it's not the type of video that I would break down here because it's just too long. It's really just like a documentary. But it's this guy. His name is Atlas. Oh, wait. No, that's not what I'm trying to do here. James Atlas. And he's made 2 videos on his YouTube channel. One we might talk about tonight. But the other one was, which I'm putting in the chat right now, is the truth about the Congo and King Leopold. Like, I'm sure you've all heard about King Leopold and the rubber trade and like the brutality and the genocide that went on down there and, limbs getting cut off. This guy basically makes the entire argument that's almost all bullshit. And it was just basically this guy's book that kind of created this narrative. And wouldn't you know it, he's a member of the tribe, the author of the book. And he wrote this whole story. It's like unsubstantiated. It's like a lot of like, third-hand accounts and like tough to verify sources and no documentation. And it's just like, oh, another trick, another lie. All right, back to the video. I'm talking about too many subjects here.
Think for what it's worth, I don't think that Nick Fuentes was from the beginning some kind of Fed or anything like that. But I think that at some point he has been captured, and now he's massively redirecting the narrative away from.
I have no idea what the fuck she's talking about. I have no idea what she's talking about. I honestly don't. Captured? By who? By what? Like, what do you think would capture him at this point? Like, he's been through so much, so many cancelizations. He just got his super chat payment processor shut down. You know, he's banned on everything. You know, most banned man alive. Couldn't fly. Assets seized. Almost killed. So many things. And now, at this point, when he hits the generational run, he's finally got mainstream relevance. He's going to now sell out? Really? After 10 years of just slaving it out in this cave, he's just going to now, he's going to turn. Now he's going to get captured. He's got working for different interests. Like, what? Based on what, lady? We're going to have to see that. That argument's going to have to be pretty well fleshed out. You make an accusation like that.
Israel away from the JQ. It's becoming a big tent conservative ideology. It's multiracial. And I think it's an affront to the principles of what we're trying to achieve. And I think it's an affront to the cause. And that is a lot like Trump. That, you know, he was saying some things that we wanted to hear. And so we allowed his other philosophies to kind of change what we believed in our core principles. And I don't like to.
I wish Atlas was in the chat. Atlas, if you can hear me, is this another of the consequences of feminism? Is this the potential subject for the consequences of feminism video? Are even the white nationalists captured by feminism? Has it gone that far? Because I wonder what she's talking about. I don't know what the hell she's referring to. I've listened to so much Nick Fuentes over the past 8 months, 9 months. I didn't really know him up. You know, you can go to my channel and see I made a video called I Was Wrong About Nick Fuentes. And that was me, like, watching, you know, not even his show, just the interviews. You know, the Patrick Bet-David one and the Dave Smith one. And I think there was maybe the Tucker one, I think. And I was like, this guy is not as he was relayed to me. This guy's very reasonable and decent and intelligent. And, like, I think that they've just been lying. Like, we're not wrong. Or, you know, I've been wrong about this. And so then I started watching his show. And it's just like I've been in it, you know. I'm like I say I'm too old to call myself a groiper because I am. I feel like it's the hello fellow groipers thing, but I am one. I mean, I am like committed. I like take his word a lot because it's like I don't know what. Let me know when he's wrong about something. Wake me the fuck up when he's wrong about something. And I've like listened to like a lot of old videos and archive videos, and like this guy Militant Groiper on YouTube did a whole like documentary about the Groiper Wars, and I was watching all this stuff, and I'm like, where is this so-called like inconsistency, or where is the compromised narratives? Like, what were you overlooking? What exactly are you pointing to? I'm like, he has been remarkably consistent. He's just gotten better and more educated and articulate about it. I don't even know what she's talking about. I honestly have no idea what she's even pointing to. Like, this kind of is a little baffling. And it's like, look, you know, when this whole thing that's gone on with Nick over the past, I guess, 2 weeks or whatever, like, there's idiots in this movement too. He's right. There is low IQ anti-Semitism. There's idiots. There's people who are emotional, who are reactionary. You know, it's like kind of lowest common denominator. So you expect guys like Jake Shields and Dan Bilzerian to like get like emotional. That comedian girl, of course, like obviously. But I feel like people who are like prescient, you know, intelligent, like give it a beat. Make sure you know what you're saying when you like decide to like criticize him like this, because it's like, what exactly are you talking? Like, what are your charges here? I would expect more out of someone who I've listened to and thought was pretty intelligent. It's like, I don't know about this. This is a misstep. Well, you know, Dick, the good news is, buddy, the internet's fucking huge, so you can go fuck off. You know what I mean? You can go beat it. There's a million different things to listen to and watch. You don't have to come here and be like, I don't like it. This isn't for me. It's like, no one cares, Dick. No one cares, brother. Move along. Move along.
See that happening again. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a serious movement is going to look like, and whether or not this is, slop. Is this movement slop, or does this present a real opportunity for the vanguard that we always discuss, to emerge?
Well, I'm kind of curious. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on exactly the pivot you think Fuentes is making, because I'm not exactly clear. As far as I understand it, he was always kind of erratic, but he was very keen on the JQ, and he was talking about race issues. So are you saying he's moved off of those things, or is this just...
Very wise of Cameron to approach it like this, to be like, what exactly are you talking about? Not jumping in or agreeing, like really making a point to have her clarify what she's saying. That is smart.
Another skirmish with somebody online?
No, I don't think it's another skirmish with somebody online. I mean, I think that yesterday, I believe he said something about us being too hard on Israel. And he has come out saying, he's voting Democrat because he wants to put pressure on Republican leaders. He's still...
Okay, first of all, like he never said that we're going too hard on Israel. And it's funny because a friend of mine was asking me about this. He's like, well, you're like the guy, like not me, like Fuentes, like you're the guy, like why is he surprised when people are going hard? Or it's like, didn't you start all this? It's like, yes, that's true. And I guess with that comes a degree of responsibility. But there are chuds. Chuds do exist. And it's like they can't have the same level of like spokesmanhood, the same like level of like not prestige, but they can't have the same reach or influence or impact as a guy like Fuentes, because it's like all that does is make the entire movement easy to disregard, easy to write off, because you're just like, oh, these are just idiots. These are monkeys. These are chimp brains. Who cares what they have to say? Like, this is not, because it's like there are people out there that probably still haven't heard the good word. But legit. And it's like, Fuentes has been making this point for a long time. Like, he has a vision. This is a plan. This is a long-term goal. He's not just going on the internet and just like, hey, do you agree with me? Cool. He's got like a plan for the future of the country. And he fucking means it. And I just like, I find this concept that she's like laying out here, like completely audacious. It's just like, no, like these are dumb. We shouldn't be associated with people like Dan Bilzerian, who says he wants to kill Israelis. We should not want that to be incorporated into our movement. That he's correct. And he's not being like soft on Israel, but he's like, don't just react, like reflexively blame them for everything like some kind of child. It's like, well, what does that do? It's like, look, I'm open-minded to the possibility that Israel killed Charlie Kirk, but I'm very much like gonna wait to see some evidence for that before I'm like, that's what happened. I see a motive, certainly, especially with how adamant against the Iran war Charlie was, and the fact that we're in a war with Iran. Like, I get that, but I don't see it as like we just say it because it sounds good or it sounds cool or we seem smart. It's like, no, like you got to be an adult. Like this is a very sophisticated adversary you're going up against. Like, you can't just spam "it's the Jews" about everything, because you're going to be wrong sometimes. And then what? Then what happens when you're wrong? It's like you've just casted doubt on the entire fucking movement. So, do a little bit better. Be a little bit smarter. Do some follow-up research. Consider other possibilities. Like, be an elite representation of this type of ideology and philosophy, and not just another fucking chimping out chud. All due respect. Cat Monarch. I like Cameron, would recommend his channel Neo Masculinity. I don't know much about Rebecca so far. She seems annoying as fuck, typical e-girl. I've only seen a few episodes with her. I don't know much about her either, but I thought, up until this, I thought she was pretty based. I really like what she had to say. I thought she was, savvy, smart, pretty cool, sexy as hell. Not that that's going to influence my digestion of her political takes, but I thought that she actually was like pretty sharp. Hopefully, Cameron will pin her down. Pause on an exact quote. I don't think we'll play a little bit more of it, but Vex, a serious movement. They always frame it like this. I'm sorry. Was Charlottesville serious? Was Chud the Builder serious? No, these people have no plan, no motion. Nick is thinking 50 years ahead. Yeah, yes, exactly, Vex. Thank you very much. Like, that's precisely what we're talking about here. It's like, this is a question of sovereignty. It is a question of sovereignty. It's a question of, like, what is our country? Who runs it? And for whose interests? And what does that mean for the future? And what does that mean for our children? And what does that mean for the legacy of this nation? And, like, what, our survival? It's like, this is a real fight. This isn't just internet memes. It's like, as much as I cared more about, like, the culture war and stuff, like that's how I got into YouTube, if y'all don't really know, which I'm sure a lot of you don't, was I got in there talking about, like, kind of gay movies and video games and the anti-woke stuff and all that. And as much as I care about that, like, the consequences of that is, like, our culture is degraded and we don't have things that we enjoy. And I still think that's a legitimate thing, but the consequences of this is the sovereignty and the future and the health of the United States of America, which is the only country I've ever known, and is the only country I belong to, by the way. I'm too, European, I'm too ambiguous. I have too many different ethnicities wrapped up into this. I don't have a homeland outside of this country. This is my country. And I don't want to just give it away. I'm not just, like, looking to move on from it. This fucking matters, man. And if you're gonna partake in it, it's like, well, then you better step up your fucking game and be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. Be a part of the final solution. Just kidding. Look and talk like a professional. Yeah, or just, don't be a retard. How about that? I think you can curse and you can be a little surly. I mean, I certainly am, but, like, you can't be a retard. Melancholy Monkey. Matt, you're a good-looking, intelligent dude, so why are you living in a Mexican apartment complex instead of a house overrunning with your white offspring? Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question, Melancholy Monkey. I don't really have it. I am leaving this apartment complex, thank God. I am moving. I might have to be moving across the country, though. I'm having some family issues that I have to go deal with. I don't want to talk about it, but it's just something that I might have to go deal with, and I'm very... it's family. It's like you want to be there for them and everything, and it is serious, but it's also like, it's across the fucking country. It's like 2,000 miles away. Anyway, that's just my own personal shit that's going on. Vote harder, guys. Well, we'll get into the vote conversation if you want to stick around for that, She reminds me of Blonde, formerly of Matt C's show. I don't really know. Flip Wilson, beat it, buddy. We know you're so cool, bro. It's such a fun, new, inventive insult. He's gay. Wow, dude. Thank God you're here. The thing about these people is, I'm not really reaching out to you, Flip Wilson, because you seem like a cunt, but people who are, like, kind of normie pilled on Fuentes, what I would assert is that most likely they've never actually watched an episode of his show. Because I think if you actually sit down and watch an episode of his show and you realize how intelligent this guy is and how articulate and knowledgeable and smart and, like, what vision he has and, like, who he is as a dude, you're going to realize how many of those narratives just fade away. They don't actually land at all. They may take root in certain critics because you've never actually engaged with the show. And I think a lot of people, too, it's like, I also think they know him because they've watched clips. It's like, that's not even close to the show. Those are clips. It's a highlight. You don't know anything. All due respect. But watch the show. It's like an hour, it's like an hour monologue. It's worth your time. It's worth your fucking time. All right, let's get into it. Oh, Flip. Oh, so you've been around? So then why are you being a cunt? I don't know. The Lindsey Graham of the new... I mean, like, what are you talking... Oh, okay, bro. Cool hot take.
Believes in changing things from within the system, but he shit all over Casey Push, who, although I don't think that we're really going to have any change within the system, so I'm kind of sympathetic to that perspective. He does seem to believe that, but he's still willing to throw shade at all of these people that are attempting to use the system to change the system. So, I'm not of that world. I want to back out of all of these opportunities in that way. But if he really believes, if he's willing to be a Democrat now because he wants to put pressure on Republican leadership, then obviously he believes that there's some element of the system that can be used to save America. And in that case, I don't know why he wouldn't support people like Dan Bilzerian or Casey Push.
Well, I actually have Nick's response to this. Now, he didn't directly respond to her. I can't imagine he would. But he does make a point in one of his episodes. Now, he did directly address the Casey Push thing, which I think is like, I don't know, he fucking lost. Like, he didn't have a chance. Like, that's why he didn't support him, because it's like he can't be associated with losers because that just makes the whole movement look like losers. Like, that should be very easy to wrap your mind around. And then you saw all that stuff coming out about him, behind the scenes of like who he really was. He didn't spend any money. It's like he got like, what was it, 10% of the vote or like 12% of the vote. He didn't have a prayer. That's why he didn't get behind him. It's like, you're not just going to get behind these people like, oh, because they're trying, hey, we all need to be in this together. It's like, do we? I mean, half of like the guys who like fuck with Nick, every other week they're calling him a Fed. They're talking shit about him. It's like, excuse me, he needs to embrace all these people? Like, why are you talking shit about Dan Bilzerian? It's like, oh, you mean the guy who launched a completely unhinged attack at Nick first? Why are you talking shit about that guy? Why are you talking shit about the fucking idiot who doesn't know the first thing about politics or the House of Representatives running for Congress in a district that he has zero chance of winning from a state he doesn't live in? Like, why is he not on board with that stunt? Is that really a question you have to ask? I've never been on board with Dan Bilzerian, and I have a tenth of the political insight that Nick has. What do you see in that guy that you're like, no, that we need to platform that idiot? The guy who's famous for being on a yacht with whores, that's the face of America first? Are you serious? Like, you need us to walk you through why he distanced himself from this fucking retard? Like, what kind of a question is that? But anyway, I got a clip from Nick talking about it. I mean, if you didn't see that, I don't know. I don't get it, Lily Dawn, why did Nick keep lying about Casey and saying who wasn't on the ballot? He that takes like 2 minutes to look up, but he kept lying about it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know that it necessarily matters though, because like I said, Nick was right. He lost. He had no prayer. So who cares? And I imagine maybe he was in certain districts he wasn't on the ballot. I don't know, but that guy was obviously a clown. Yeah, all right, here we go. I mean, it's just the same. It's the same fucking terms. It's like, okay, brother, look. I like Nick. Chat is not going to convince me to not like Nick. I don't mean like the collective chat. I mean like you putting something in the chat is not going to be like, oh, wait, did you think that maybe calling him gay one more time would work this time? Well, look, actually, let me absorb it. All right, let's play this like response, this video from Nick explaining precisely what she's talking about.
This is a year where the movement gets smaller and we weed out the people that we don't need. The last thing we need or want is people talking about killing and exterminating Israelis. I don't want anything to do with that. That's evil. I want to exterminate Israel. Yeah, I'm not with that. That's evil. I don't think Palestine should be exterminated. I don't think Israel should. I don't think anybody should be exterminated. I don't want to pick up a gun and kill anybody. I'm a Christian. What I want is young people to engage in the political process peacefully and lawfully and in a way that is good for themselves and their development and their well-being and their family to take our sovereignty back. That is what I want. You want to talk about fuck a group of people, pick up a gun and kill them, exterminate them? I want nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. I don't want to be anywhere near that. That's not going to work. That's not my conscience. That's not who I am.
And if you've been paying even like a modicum of attention, if you've been observing this whole dynamic for even a short period of time, you would know that his critics would just love him to embrace Brazarian, would just love him to embrace the guy who says he wants to kill Israelis. A, because they'd be like, see, we told you. He's a violent anti-Semite and he wants to kill Jews. We told you. And then, what do you think they would do with this incredibly pro-Israel, pro-Trump, this Trump administration, this incredibly pro-Israel Trump administration? Do you think maybe they might mobilize to silence him and silence everyone who's in the JQ space? You think that there might be, we remember during COVID, you'd get those little warnings and people were getting their channels demonetized and taken down. You think that's not possible again? So maybe he's actually got a little bit more vision than some of you retards who don't understand that you can't be associated with someone who's talking about murdering people as a political platform in the year 2026. This isn't make-believe. This isn't a video game. This is real life. What's not to get?
You think that's cool? You think that's edgy? You just turned 16? You're low IQ? Fuck you. You want to go and be a part of that? Knock yourself out. We don't want you. This is a year of refinement. This is Gideon's army. I don't need 3 million. I need 300. I only need the best and brightest. I only need the people that actually get it, people that care enough to do the research and the homework, people that care enough to listen, people that care enough that they're actually even going to be here in a year, 2 years, 5 years.
That's another point. I mean, what's to say Dan and Jake just don't get distracted by something shiny by the time there's another presidential election? You know what I mean? Like, have these guys, I'm sorry, did I miss this, the moment in time where these guys were like heavy weighted, important political commentators that we needed to like keep an eye on? Hey, did you hear what Jake said today? Did you hear what Dan Bilzerian's fucking hot, fresh take was? No, what'd he say? He said it was the Jews again. Whoa, okay, good. Thank God he's here for that. Like, what is, I don't even understand. It's like, this is such an obvious, you distance yourself from a guy like that, obviously. I'm running for Congress in an incredibly Jewish district that carried Trump by like 30 points or 40 points. You're gonna, the fucking guy with the giant ridiculous mullet who's famous because his dad was rich and he was on a boat with whores is gonna like waltz into that, like almost certainly not having any idea what a congressman does, what someone in the House does, is gonna then what? Dethrone that guy who, by the way, is essentially working for Israel? You think that's gonna work? You think there's a fucking shot in the dark, a fucking snowball's chance of hell of that materializing into anything other than complete utter embarrassment and a waste of money? And you're like, oh, why didn't Nick support Dan? Why do you is a much better question.
Not people that got into this because they're in a lot of legal problems with their dad's company. Not people that got into this because they got punched in the face 6 million times. Not people that got into this because they just have nowhere else to go.
Hey, Brad, I got news for you. The right's already fractured, pal. The right is already fractured. It's been fractured. These guys are not... There's no malice here. I mean, there's malice, certainly, but not from people who are Israel critical or JQ critical or red pill critical. Those people are dealing with reality. Those people are recognizing that this administration, totally full of shit. Political graft, corruption, lying. I mean, they literally, how many insider trading stories are going to have to come out for you to, like, pick up on that? Like the Iran war, like all this stuff, no tariffs, no Doge, you know, no mass deportations. It's just, I mean, it's an endless list of complete charlatan fraud failure. Okay. The right is divided, and for good reason, because there's still people who are like, Israel's our greatest ally and the Trump administration's going to pull it off. You just need to trust the plan. And people who are grappling with reality. There's a natural division. It's not the creators. This isn't like some master plan of Nick behind the scenes, like to break apart the coalition. The coalition's destroyed. The coalition doesn't exist. Have you seen Trump's approval numbers? They're in the toilet. I haven't seen them in a few weeks, but last I saw, they were some of the worst since Truman or something. They're like horrific. So there is already a break on the right. No one's creating it. It exists. This is just the reason why. I know. I mean, how fucking pathetic. It's just so lazy. Look, just be creative. Like for me, like I like insult comedy. That's not even a thing, but I like, edgy, mean comedy. It's like, but just, come up with something else, Watch his show and come up with it's like, all right, dude. Okay, cool. Funny. I said he's gay, guys. You see it? I said it again. I said it again. I said it again. Fuck off.
And that's all they can contribute. So I want nothing to do with any of these people. They're hurting us more than they're helping us, and they have been for a long time. So you want low IQ anti-Semitism, you want a retard right, you want schizo, conspiracy, exterminate Israelis, left-right fusion, you go and do that. And to you, I say good luck. My mission this year remains, and by the way, I'm not going away. What are you going to do? Call me a gay Mexican Fed again? Oh, no. Oh, what are we going to do? I've never heard that one before.
Chat. Okay? Chat.
I'm not going away. I'm doing the show every night, most nights, 5 nights a week sometimes. I'm doing the show every night for years, and my explicit mission is defeat Vivek Ramaswamy in Ohio. Democrats win.
James, what are the red flags, bud? What are they? I have not seen one articulated that is in good faith or is authentic other than he didn't support Casey Putsch, loser who had no chance. He's not supporting Dan Bilzerian, fraud, grifter, who even is this guy? Instagram celebrity? Yeah, I'm not supporting him. I didn't need Fuentes to like validate that. I've had a buddy who messaged me that shit. I don't care. I've always thought that guy's an idiot. What are the red flags? What, that he's right about everything? That he's the most articulate political speaker there is? What are the, give me one. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, he's gay. He's gay. He's a Mexican fat cat boy. Okay, dude. Obviously I'm not, and also, by the way, I'm not like patrolling who people are. There's this guy, Vrillium, who a lot of people give shit to. And, they're like, oh, his past and stuff. And it's like, okay, dude, I care about the takes. I care about the conversation. I don't care that he was really weird in college, and he was, but I don't care about that. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. It's not important. Who is the guy today? What is he doing today? What is his contribution today? That's not to say anything any of those critiques about Nick are valid. They're not, but I'm not even concerned with that. That's not going to sway my opinion, man. It's not going to sway the insight that he's offering. It's not going to sway the intellect and the position that he holds. Shut up, dude. Do fucking better. Why don't you actually launch a real criticism that I can do something with? Oh my God.
In the midterms in 26, and we make sure that JD Vance and Marco Rubio lose in 2028. That is my mission. That is all I care about at this point in time. That is my overriding priority. I'm not trying to win a dick measuring contest with the roid head.
Bro, you get honest to God, you believe AI memes. You believe AI memes. Okay, dude, you're not a serious guy either. I don't care. You know what I mean? You're in the cheap seats being like, this pitcher sucks. Take him out. Shut up, dude. What are you doing? I don't want to hear it.
I'm not trying to win a social media argument with somebody that got, their face caved in the UFC. I'm not interested in these intramural sideshow debates with idiots. What I am interested in is taking over the GOP. And by the way, we're going to do it with or without him. We did before, we will now. I'm not looking for knuckleheads. I am looking for the best and brightest, the geniuses. Yeah, I'm looking for the refined people. I'm not looking for the alpha muscular Christians that are going to take the country back. No, I'm looking for the actually intelligent, sophisticated, refined people that are deadly serious about this, that are going to give their lives to this, not in some ecstatic martyrdom, not in some violent sacrifice, but they're going to give their lives to it with the monotony every single day, bit by bit, when we're winning, when we're losing, climbing the ladder in the bureaucracy and everywhere else, choosing at all possible times the most advantageous thing so that we can eventually become the kingmakers and the decision makers in politics. That's what I'm interested in. I am not interested in being whatever. We're interested in creating that shadow empire,
I hope that that's clear. I hope that that is not too complex for you guys to wrap your minds around, you know. But it's like, look, you know, this type of political trolling, it's gay. Like, it had its time. There was a reason why it worked, you know, like edgy memes and stuff like that were effective. They were an effective political tool. But now it's just like, this is noise, man. There's no reason. We don't have to communicate like that anymore. Because if free speech actually exists again, and you can put out your content and you can communicate in a way that's direct and honest and uses like real language, and you don't have to be subversive, because actually it's not really necessary anymore. So, you know, the chat is going retarded. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever, man. Like, I really don't feel like these concepts are that hard to grasp, but maybe I'm just not a low IQ fucking anti-Semitic retard, you know? Like, oh, that's the Jewish. He doesn't say it enough. I don't like it. Okay, you know. Good luck, you know. Good luck with the political future you have envisioned. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Let's go back to the reset and watch a little bit more of that, because Cameron responds a little bit, but it kind of gets a little sad at one point.
Right, but why do you think he's not? I guess is my question. I mean, from what I gather, I'll explain my perspective on these things in just a moment, but I want to hear more from you first. So it sounds like he's pivoted off of some of these core ideas that made him an e-celebrity to begin with. That's the first point you seem to have made. The second is that he's changed tactically by suggesting we should vote for the Democrats. And then thirdly, that these insider criticisms he's leveling at people like Putsch or like this guy, Bill Zarian, that represents a change in character. All of that is to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to understand that in so doing, he has invalidated himself as a leader of the movement, because he leads a movement. He does. So the Groyper movement is quite real. We can debate whether it relates to what we're talking about when we say the movement or not, but that's quite real, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So what exactly?
No, and I don't want him to stop. But one thing that's important within this realm is some element of self-assessment. And Nick, although he is leader of the Groypers, he is not the originator of the cause, and I think that's an important distinction to be made. He didn't start America First. He wasn't the person that woke us up to the JQ. He made it mainstream. That is true. But that's not where most of us started. And I think that
first of all, I don't know who this most of us she's talking about. I would say the conversation has radically changed just in the past few years, and it correlates directly with Nick's generational run. So to act like we've been talking about this for years, it's like, maybe you have. I don't even know who you are really. Like this, I'm just getting acquainted with this chick. So maybe she has been talking about this for a long time and she's been really savvy, but the bulk of the shift in the conversation has got to be like placed squarely on Nick's shoulders. To pretend otherwise is just completely disingenuous. You know, if people have moved on from him, or, you know, you guys have your criticisms or your issues with him or whatever, it's like, okay, man, you know, that's fine. You're allowed to have those. But to take away the impact is completely disingenuous. Like, I don't even know who the hell she thinks she is. Like, I don't know who you are. And I've known of Nick for years and years, and the amount of like heavy lifting he's done to move the Overton window and the ball on that particular question is like absurd to just completely downplay. To just be like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he didn't invent these ideas. It's like, yeah, he made the mainstream. Is like, you're really underplaying that. You're really underselling the degree with which that has had an impact. So it's pretty audacious coming from her. Like, I liked her. Someone in this chat, I think it was Lord of the Ree, maybe recommended I check them out. And I like her generally. I think she's got solid takes, but this, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. Like, that is crazy.
He is feeling like his leadership and his ability to be influential is being compromised by people like Dan Bilzerian and Cage Push. Now, that being said, I don't know enough about Dan Bilzerian to advocate for him. I don't want to get into this binary thinking where because I'm criticizing Nick, I'm advocating for Dan. I just think we need to set a higher standard for leadership and people that are here for entertainment value or here to give us information about what's going on in the world. He is a geopolitical strategist. He is very smart. He's an analyst and he's an internet personality. And so I think that people need to realize, like, this is my role within the movement. This is what I'm good at. And this is kind of where I'm going to stay. In rare opportunities, people can transition. But I think that this is kind of a manifestation of his poor self-assessment.
Bro, there is so much. I know that like Zeb is like pretty critical of Nick. Is that like what this is about? Like, there is so much in this chat where you're just like, okay, what exactly are your answers for this then? Like, there's so much just like, he's controlled opposition and he's sold out and he, so many other people did stuff. It's like, okay, like, then what exactly is your answer? Then who should we be following? Who should we be listening to? And what's the goal here? What's the plan? I don't hear one. I don't see one. I just see like, no, I don't like him. Like, sick, dude. Wow. Great contribution. I appreciate you. And I know you're probably going to go far. Thanks, man. Fucking stupid. This is dumb, dude. Like, okay. All right, guys. I think your point was made. I don't give a shit. This isn't going to affect my opinion on the guy. I'm not going to change that. You can keep spamming the same shit over and over, but that doesn't change how I observe it because you actually aren't saying anything.
Of what his role and his job really are within the movement.
Okay. All right. I think I understand what you're saying. All right. Well, let's now for something completely different.
All right, they're moving on. We're going to move on to, I want to talk about that because I thought that was relevant, and it is. But it is going into the vote Democrat question, and there was a conversation with Joey, Right Wing Coalition, who I cover on this show quite a bit, and he's been on my show over on Foul Ball Productions as well. He's a fucking sharp kid. He did call him a kid, but he's a sharp guy. He did a video, an interview with, who was that today? I forgot the guy's name, but he's been making the rounds, and he had Mansour Z on his show this week. I don't know who that is, but had him on, and they had a pretty good conversation, and they were talking directly about that voting for Democrat in the midterms thing. And like I said, I understand that there was a debate on this channel recently about that very subject. So if you've had enough, I understand, I empathize, but we're going to talk about it. I thought it was a pretty solid take by Joey here. Dr. Tentanis, Dr. Tentanis, thank you. At best, Nick is this decade's Sargon of Akkad. The only difference is he has much more delusional goals as a streamer and isn't running himself. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. I appreciate it. I like both those guys. As far as Sargon's like goals politically, I don't really know what they are. I mean, I know that he's as far as taking, organized media action, he's taken quite a bit. I mean, he has got his magazine, which I've read. He started the Lotus Eaters podcast. He's made an impact. He's done those. He's done a lot of talks. He's done like gatherings and stuff that have moved the needle. And I think the conversation in England has been dramatically changed. the mass English public seems to be in a much different place than they were just a few years ago on some of the more tougher, controversial issues. So I feel like he's impacted a lot. I mean, as far as Nick's concerned, I don't know. He's got like his America First Foundation that he's working on. He's got like, according to him, all these different contacts inside the administration. I mean, like he's trying to mobilize an entire generation to get a political consciousness and be more informed and be sharp and be aware of things in a way that I feel like actually is cohesive and actually has some long-term goals. I don't think it's delusion. I don't think it's delusions of grandeur. I think it's, look, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, wake me up when the guy's wrong. Wake me up when he's wrong about something. And I don't know. I believe in him. But thank you for the super chat. And another one rolling in from Brian B386 for $20. Thank you very much, Brian. That's very generous. I have watched Rebecca on and off for a decade. I like her dark sense of humor, and she is smart, but she is also pretty grifty. I still watch, but I take her with a grain of salt like so many others. Cameron is fine. Like I said, I just got introduced to her. I liked what they were saying. I thought they had some good takes, and it sounds like she's been around the conversation for a long time, so I respect her for that. I think that this is just out of left field. Look, I don't even mind if she had like real criticisms of Nick, but what she was just parroting was like fringe in the comment section type takes. It's like these aren't sharp criticisms. These aren't acute. They're not actually getting at something. It's like, why aren't you supporting Dan Bilzerian? Why aren't you supporting Casey Putsch? It's like, because they're both losers, obviously. What are you talking about? Like, why would he? Casey Putsch he's done forever. He'll never come back. And Dan Bilzerian is like I said, he's like talk about a grifter. I mean, the guy's literally just, what even is he? Like, what? He's not even like, at least Jake Shields was like an MMA fighter for a while. You got to give him that. What is Dan Bilzerian? He was on a yacht with hoes on Instagram. That's how I know who Dan Bilzerian is. And I guess he did Rogan or whatever. I couldn't imagine giving any kind of a shit about what that guy thinks. And she's like, why is he not taking these guys seriously? It's because they're not serious. Like, what kind of a question is that? But yeah, I mean, look, I'll probably keep watching her show. I'll probably keep an eye on it for a little bit. But, with a take like that, it's like, all right. I don't know if you can't actually articulate like a real argument, if you can't actually like detail what you're talking about, and you're basically just parroting like hateful not hateful, but like hater comments, whatever. Cool. Hot take. All right. So this is Joey talking to Mansour C. Like I said, I don't know him. He's got a pretty big channel. I think over 200,000 subs. But they were talking about, basically the voting Democrat thing, the whole like voting in the midterms for the Democrats. And I think Joey makes I'll let Joey say it.
I did a video recently that explained why some on the dissident right have proposed voting Democrat, whether it's for Amy Acton in Ohio or just in the midterms. And I actually didn't endorse the idea.
Anti-whiteism. Casey's explicitly a loser. I'm not passing judgment on his character. He lost in the primary, and he didn't have a fucking prayer. That's like explicitly by definition a loser. He lost. What would have Nick's impact been there exactly? He would have moved that to 15%, 17%. Why would he do that? He claims that he knew all the stuff that got leaked, that all came out about his campaign. He said that he knew about all that months ago. I don't know if it's true, but it's aligned with how it's playing out. Like I said, wake me up when this guy's wrong about something. So it's like he literally lost, so he's a loser.
Although I'm certainly not opposed to it in principle, because what I was explaining, which the NPCs were unable to come to terms with this, is the fact that if the GOP can act with impunity and Trump can do in office what he's doing right now, which is literally blatantly lying to us. I mean, they're insider trading right in front of us. And your reflex is, well, you still have to vote for the GOP because the left is going to be worse. I understand that. I understand practically that as the GOP exists, it probably is preferable, certainly if you're prioritizing something like immigration. My issue is the fact that that fundamentally accepts your seat as the slave in a master-slave dynamic, because you otherwise have no mechanism to exert influence over the behavior of the GOP. And who is to say, I mean, nobody has even offered why, principally, the GOP itself will always remain preferable to the Democrats.
This has been my point for a while about, like, I'm obviously no Democrat, and I think we're going to get into that. We're going to get into all this in a minute. But this has been my point, is like, what explicitly is so much better right now? The only thing I can even really point to is the fact that the border is, for now, closed. There is a completely insignificant border wall that's being constructed, allegedly, something like 70 miles, and I think the entire project is supposed to be like 1,500. Oh, wow, that sounds like that'll be done anytime soon, you know? But literally, I can't point to another single win. I don't honestly know what is so much better about this presidency or this administration than another Democrat. I don't really get it. Like, obviously, Biden let in 20 million illegals or 12 million illegals or whatever the number is. It's like, okay, what have we done to undo that? Nothing. So it's just like one step forward, two steps back. We're going backwards. This Trump administration completely sold us out. They all lockstep behind Israel. You know, the point that they always make is why they couldn't do the mass deportations, why they couldn't do the job site raids, why they couldn't do the city raids after the Minneapolis thing, like, you know, had some casualties. Why couldn't they do it anymore? Oh, it's too unpopular. Hey, let's launch the most unpopular war in the history of this country. And I mean to say, you know, someone was saying this in my chat on my show last week. They're like, Vietnam was way more unpopular. Not at the start, it wasn't. People were on board with the Vietnam War. They were on board with Korea. You know, this is the most unpopular war at the start that we've ever fought in our entire lives. And it's like, wow, you really didn't seem to give any kind of a shit about the popularity here. Didn't seem to weigh in on your decision even a little bit. But we couldn't do mass deportations because they were too unpopular. Was that really the reason? Or was it that the donors and the bureaucracy and the Jewish and Israeli influence that actually runs this country didn't want you to do those things and did want you to bomb Iran? Is it maybe more about that? I would say that it is. So all these people who are like, oh, well, you know, the Democrats will be worse. It's like, worse than what? Worse than selling you out? Worse than lying to you? Worse than manipulating your vote to get your vote, telling you what you wanted to hear and then replacing you with Indians and AI? Is it worse than that? Like, I honestly don't even understand what the counter argument is here. It's like you're making it sound like we've got, like, you know, the generational, like one of the best administrations in the history of this country. We're turning everything around and, you know, he's being petty about one thing he doesn't want and is going to vote for Democrat. Like, that is not what's happening here, even kind of. This is a complete betrayal on every front. You know, it's like, like I said, the only win I can even point to is a temporary border close. Temporary. I was listening to Nick Fuentes talk about this with Crowder, and Crowder's like, "Oh, reverse migration for the first time in 50 years or whatever." It's like, "Oh, was that the golden age we were promised? Reverse migration for the first time, or was it 40 million deportations?" I seem to remember something about the largest mass deportation effort in history, and we're not even talking about that, let alone mobilizing to do it. It's not happening, okay? Come to grips with that. That's the reality. It's not happening. What is happening, is we're paying tariffs back. Wow, that went great. We're not getting, we're still, look, Strait of Hormuz, still not open. That oil, still stuck over there, okay? That's not resolved. Who knows what's going on with that? Who knows where that's going to go? So every single campaign promise betrayed, and everyone's losing their minds at the concept of voting for 2 years for just the House of Representatives, Democrats, to punish this administration. I honestly can't even wrap my mind around how that offends your Constitution, why that bothers you. It's like, this is politics. You're not voting for friends, okay? You're voting for action. You're voting to get the things that serve your interest and serve the nation. This administration does not do that. I'm not advocating voting for a Democrat in 2028. That's insane. But we need to do something about this administration. It needs to be completely cut off at the knees. They need to be wallowed down. And honest to God, they do need to be litigated and impeached. It's criminal what they're doing. Every week you see a new story about how, oh, there's some new insider trading. Right before Trump did something, oh, someone just bought, 500,000 shares of NVIDIA or whatever. Made $5 million, made $20 million on the inside. Like, okay. And they're putting that guy in jail, the soldier who made that bet on Polymarket about getting rid of Maduro. That guy's going to jail, or he's at least facing legal trouble. But the administration can do this all day, every day. Just fraud, dude. Stealing. While they spit in your face for you wanting mass deportations, they laugh at you while they import more H-1Bs. Take your country out from under you. Replace you with Indians and AI. And you're like, more please. More please. Can I have some more GOP who will stomp on my face? And but they'll kiss me and tell me they love me. Fucking pathetic.
I'm not saying that can be contested right now, but what I'm saying is it is fundamentally a position taken on faith that the GOP will remain acting in your personal interest when they've clearly disregarded it, and unless they believe that your vote is not a certainty, they have no incentive to actually adjust their behavior. When I saw the reflex to this proposal, it genuinely shocked me. Like, I really believed that enough people would be able to sit back and say, well, obviously we should ponder the question and the scenario of whether or not we are willingly operating as slaves in this dynamic. Whether or not you agree with the conclusion of going to vote for the left, the point is as of right now, if the GOP could do anything and you would vote for them, then you are literally their slave.
You care.
I mean, if you have no standards, like what else would you characterize that? Like, if you're with a woman and she can do anything to you and you will never leave her, you're her bitch. If she can take your money and cheat on you and talk shit about you behind your friends and, steal your shit or whatever, and you will never leave her, you are her bitch. She owns you. And you've established no boundaries on what behavior is acceptable. And why that can't be applied to the GOP, I honestly don't understand. It's like people think somehow it's like because you cast a different ballot or you write down a different letter on your thing that now you think different? What, now I suddenly want all the illegals to stay because I'm willing to weaponize my vote against this corrupt administration? Now what? Now I'm a liberal? You guys, like, this isn't a sports team. I'm not just putting on a different jersey. Well, hey, I'm a Democrat now. No, dude. First of all, I'm America first. I care about what happens for this country before anything. And I will vote for the person who supports that, who will actualize that. And if I can't do that, and someone's going to fuck me and tell me, piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining, and I can do something that will not have like irreparable consequences, like, you better believe I'm playing that card. By the way, it's kind of the only card you have. Unless you've got some broad political influence, that's your access to political power. So I really don't even understand. Like, I think people, it's like, okay, so you're the GOP's bitch and you'll let them do whatever to you with nothing. You have no response. No line. Like, Trump couldn't even get trialed trans surgeries illegal. Like, the farthest down the line, he couldn't get that done. And you guys are like, I can't believe you're voting for Democrats. It's like, I can't believe you're not. I can't believe you're not even thinking about it. I can't believe you won't even entertain the argument. It's like, what exactly are these people doing for you? What are they giving you? I live in Texas. You got Governor Abbott is dancing to like Diwali. He's like got all these Indians in Dallas, all over Texas. What? That's our base GOP? You know how easy it should be for a red state with a red governor like that to actualize mass deportations? It should be so easy. You could use the Texas National Guard is one of the most impressive in the country. You could use them. You could facilitate. There wouldn't be any pushback from Abbott, right? From your based Chad GOP governor, right? Isn't that what this is the argument, right? This is what you're telling me. If you're saying you can't even fathom voting for a Democrat for 2 years in the House, by the House terms are 2 years, by the way, just a little civic knowledge. You can't even wrap your mind. You can't even fathom that concept, but you'll vote for the Republicans who tell you they'll do that, do none of it, and then we'll count on your vote next time. And guess what? You'll be there to give it to them because you're their bitch. You have no boundaries. And it's like, I don't even know what is that. That is slave mentality. It's like they just own you. It's like, okay, bro, I don't know. Like, to quote Fuentes, man, take your own side.
Characterized it really well. It's how far is somebody willing to accept a transgression?
Yeah.
Before they say no more, I'm done. I don't accept this. And if you just keep kicking that further and further down the line, then you are making yourself a servant to this crowd. The way that you characterized it, that fear of the other guy, where it's vote for the GOP even if you disagree with what they've been doing recently because the other guy's scarier. That is another point at which I started to sort of question Trump's stance. This was the New York City mayoral election recently.
Okay, look, I mean, I don't think that this criticism is in good faith, but I'll take it on. Take your own side, like with Democrats. What you understand, right, that there are 3 chambers of government. Trump is still the president. The Senate will remain Republican, most likely, and then you'll have a Democrat House, okay? The Democrat House can raise committees and will put the Trump administration through legal hell for the next 2 years. Will drag down and slow down all the bullshit they're doing. And people are maybe worried. It's like, oh, well, that'll slow down the mass deportations. They're not happening anyway. That is a fantasy. That was graft. That was bullshit. That was never going to happen. So that's not even a risk because it's not even on the table. So you hold your nose for 2 years and then vote Republican in 2028. What will have happened? What honestly do you think the House could accomplish except making life miserable for the Trump administration? What do you really think could get done? Any bill that goes up has got to has to be signed by the Senate too. They have to accept it as well. So if it's something super Democrat, which by the way, I don't even see the big distinction between the Republicans and the Democrats in this country anyway. So I'm not even really sure what you're talking about. But even if there was some based contingent in the GOP, which I don't think there is, but even if there was, they could stop anything that would be too severe coming out of the House. So realistically, I don't even know what could happen to the country other than they'll slow down the Trump administration and depose them and hopefully impeach some of them. I honestly really don't even see the other side of the argument. I really don't. And I'm not trying to be like disingenuous, like I'm right. It's like I don't see it.
Where you had a Republican, Curtis Lewa. Did I ever speak to you about Curtis Lewa? I think we might have brought it up. No, Curtis Lewa was a fantastic guy. I grew up in the city. I would see him just walk.
I think they're moving on to a different conversation, but I thought that Joey pointed that out pretty well and articulated it pretty well. And it's just something that I like. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too because I honestly don't get it. It's like the Republicans are controlled by Jews, but the Democrats are open border. And it's just like, okay, so what do you want to do? Go to war? Like, is that your plan? Like, we're going to start a revolution? Like, I don't know, man. I look around this country. It's like, I don't really see a lot of soldiers, I see a lot of guys that couldn't run a mile. So I don't know where your army's coming from. I don't know where this based, JQ, J-pilled militia is going to come out of, but I don't think it's going to play out the way you think it will. And it's also not the only way to play. There's other ways to do it. All right, let's talk about, this is what I said. We're going to move on from clip to clip here. This is Darryl Cooper was on Tom Woods' show this week. And they had it was an okay conversation. It wasn't anything I felt that was too necessary to get into. But there was something here at the end that I thought was pretty based and pretty cool that Darryl said as it brings up Buchanan and talks a little bit about Obama. So let's get into that a little bit. Yeah, I knew your criticism wasn't in good faith, but I still took it on because it was able to make my point.
Right, on some level, we do kind of know it. Now, Scott told me, and I guess maybe I remembered this at the time recently, about Pat Buchanan getting very upset that Barack Obama had taken his jacket off in the White House, that the jacket is part of what the man is wearing. It's not like you put on a coat because it's cold. That's part of what you have on. You don't take it off. And he thought that was a kind of informality that he just couldn't abide. And Scott thought of it as kind of quaint old Pat Buchanan, which I kind of do too, because, yeah, I get it, of all possible things to be worried about. But I want to have a Pat Buchanan who reminds us of things like that. I don't want to dismiss
No, you
him.
need it.
Yeah.
I was reading a book a while back on the My Lai massacre, and I can't remember if it was talking about Charlie Company itself or if it was referring to another military unit that had carried out an atrocity. But they were interviewing some of the people who were involved, and one of the things that one of them said, it's kind of famous if you're into that kind of history. It said it started when guys stopped shining their boots. Like, that's when we started down the.
I thought this was pretty interesting that he pointed this out, and I'm going to make an analogy to goy ball, if you'll indulge me, because I don't really watch professional sports as much anymore now, but I used to quite a bit. And I remember back in the 2000s, there was a player that went from the Yankees to the Mets. You know, if you know anything about MLB, the Yankees are one of the best organizations in all of professional baseball, and the Mets are kind of a punchline. Sadly enough, the Mets are my team. But he said one of the things he said that he was shocked when he went from the Yankees to the Mets was just like the lack of discipline, like the casualness, the fact that they didn't shave and they didn't have these like guidelines and these standards. And you look at stuff like that and you think, that's superficial, that's nitpicky, that type of stuff. But then you relay it to like what Darryl was just saying about the My Lai massacre and kind of the lack of discipline and the lack of like purpose and a cohesive unit. Like, those things have like rich effects. It's like discipline, right? If you're running a business or even like a classroom, right? It's like, remember when you were in school and you're in high school, right? It's like you'd push the teacher a little bit to see what you could get away with. And if the teacher was super strict, right out the gate and maintained that standard, you really couldn't and didn't get away with much. But if you found where the soft spots were, like, usually you could kind of wear them down. And that would kind of be how it was. And like, there were certain teachers you knew who were just chill, or you could steamroll, and there were certain teachers you knew you just didn't fuck around with. And that's because standards matter. Having discipline matters. Having like a standard actually that you adhere to, that you don't actually flex, you don't bend on, isn't flexible, matters. And I think I thought this was like an interesting point, because it starts off with Buchanan getting annoyed with Obama taking off his jacket in the Oval Office. And it does sound like a fuddy-duddy thing. But what it does is it sort of lowers the prestige just a little bit. And then other things go by the wayside. They crumble. The discipline goes down. The respect goes down. The professionalism goes down. I think Darryl's analogy with the My Lai massacre was really sharp.
Road to what happened there. Because like once, in this, even in the military, and while I was in the military for the most of the time I was in, I didn't get this either. But it's like, you let that go, and now you're on to the next thing. And like now you have to hold the line one step further down. And then if you let that go, it gets easier to let the next one go, and it starts rolling downhill. And like, it's one of the reasons that, you've seen actually people from within the Spec Ops community in the last, really in the last 10 years, you've seen a lot of this and like internal sort of, military journal type writings and stuff, saying that, just having been at war and just deployment after deployment after deployment for so many years, which if you've been in special operations, since the global war on terror started, I mean, your deployment schedule has just been absolutely insane. That it has had an effect of loosening discipline within these units, because things are different when you're out in the field. You're out there, like, nobody's really, getting on your case about your facial hair or just, any of your uniform items or whatever it is. Like, that kind of stuff, that's stateside stuff. That's stuff when you're back at training command and when you're, but those things are really important. Like, that's why we pull people off the line for a period of time to kind of reset that, so that when they go back out, they're starting at that same baseline. And, so I think, like, as a society, you can't have the wealthiest people in your society thinking it's okay to show up to your wedding in a hoodie, basically, and not have that spill over into everything else. Like,
this is an interesting point in the conversation. I think they said something to the effect earlier in the show. I don't quite remember, but it was basically about, I think Tom was saying that what would the founding fathers think of today or something like that, kind of like almost like a boomer kind of comment. But, they went on to say that, like, the richest people in our society, like, Jack Dorsey or whatever, like, they don't take care of their appearance. They don't wear like clothes. They don't look good. They don't take care of themselves. They look too casual. And then Darryl goes on, he's making his point here, but it's like, it kind of is like, it almost is like aristocracy, right? A lot of people have been making the point that, we destroyed aristocracy. That's basically over, right? It kind of exists in certain ways, but there's no real monarchies. It's certainly not like in Europe or obviously here. But what, like, the difference was, like, there was like this chivalrous code amongst monarchies that sort of, held them to task. Now, I'm not a monarchist here. I'm not LARPing as like, we need a king. But there is something to that. And there was something to, like, a code, and there was something to carrying yourself with dignity. And that was a real thing that actually carried weight and wasn't just a superficial thing, that there was something that emanated from that. Right. And it's kind of like the discipline thing that he was talking about. It's like, all right, well, if the discipline isn't enforced at the shoe, it's like, all right, well, it's enforced maybe here, or maybe way down there. And then discipline gets completely weaker and kind of falls apart. I think that's, like, really interesting. It's like those things that are, like, traditional, like socially conservative, that maybe are superficial, maybe don't seem like the type of things you have to preserve. But there's something to it. I think there really is something sort of intellectually, culturally, spiritually that comes from that there actually is something real in that. And that's not something I give a lot of thought to. It's not something that I really absorb a lot. Like, you have to dress with dignity and carry yourself with dignity. It's like, I wear sweatpants to the supermarket, but it's like, it's something that I feel like is worthy of reflection and worthy of adjustment and worthy of maybe tweaking. It's like, I do think when you see, like, a streamer, like, who wears, sorry, I won't mention Nick Fuentes. I know you little fucking faggots get all offended when I say his name, but the fact that he generally does wear a suit, it just lends a bit of credibility. It's like that old Latin thing. It's like the clothes make the man. It's like, there's something to that. There's something real.
You know what? This is what would happen in that funny comedy movie that with George Washington coming up that I want to see made, is he would see all of the chaos in Karen Bass's LA. He would just be completely befuddled how this could possibly happen in America. And then he would see the richest man in the world I
would expect someone of this level of criticism to think that that's funny. But it isn't, Lone Wolf. That's not funny. It's not clever. It's gay. Fwag. Tez. Whoa, buddy. They did that Kevin Hart roast. You could have wrote. You've missed your calling. You should have been a comedy writer. That's genius. Fucking shut up. This is kind of what I think the whole point was, is like, it needs to be represented. The movement does need to be represented well. And it can't be represented by people who think that's funny. Yeah, be out, man. That's good. That's a good thing. Go the other way.
In America and in the world, a walk down the street in like a t-shirt and sandals, and he would go, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
now I
understand now.
Now I get it."
Yep, I understand now. By the way, I can't wait. The comments are going to rip us.
All right, that was all that. That's just that one little comment, a little bit there. All right, let's get into. I've got a few different things we could talk about. I got a few different clips here. This is from a little bit more in the libertarian spaces. This is from Provoked. A little bit more Darryl Cooper. How about that segue? This was from their show. Now, I missed last week, or this might even be from 2 weeks ago. But anyway, I didn't talk about any of this because I've been away. But this is from their show, Provoked, and I wanted to get into it. I don't quite remember exactly why I clipped this, but I'm sure it'll become apparent when I listen to the clip. So let's listen to a little bit of Provoked with I don't know, is Darryl Cooper, he claims he's right wing, right? He says that he's right wing and Scott Horton's a libertarian. I don't really know. That would be my impression. That'd be my guess, but I don't really know.
And in terms of own goals, this is Iraq War II level screw up. And we talked before.
I think it's worse. I think it's worse. And here's why. Iraq War II, while it was a strategic disaster, it made, in the eyes of neocons and a lot of people driving this war necessary. I think this one's worse because, the Iraq War exposed the limits of the U.S. military's ability to affect political outcomes in a very specific and minute manner when there's an insurgency, our ability to win hearts and minds and sort of shape the institutions and all that kind of stuff. But it did not call into question the U.S. military's ability to go in there and kick somebody's ass. That was not called into question. And now that is not even called into question. We have displayed the limits of U.S. hard power for the entire world to see.
That is something that is so acute and correct and is kind of unsettling when you see it's like, oh, we don't really have another card to play here in this Iran thing unless we really want to step it up. Unless we really want to start committing we want to get all Israeli on this bitch and start committing war crimes. There's not really much else to do. We exhausted all the power. There's all these different reports and stuff coming out about how much the Patriot missiles, those interceptor missiles, how much those are degraded to a very concerning level and just cannot be just replaced, at will. They take a lot of time to make these because of all the, computer components and expensive metals that go into it. You can't just reproduce those at a whim. They take a while. So those are depleted to a very significant degree. Our air campaign, we basically just showed our ass. We showed everything that we can do from the air. And it's it was significant, and not every country is Iran. Not every country has got an underground fortress that, can protect their infrastructure like that. But you did show them what you can and can't do. And it didn't do a whole lot, honestly. And then without a ground force, it's we really just... Trump changed the strategic landscape in the world probably irreparably moving forward. It's shifted. I think it was Darryl Cooper. I don't know if he pointed out in this one or it was something he was talking about. It may be in this clip. I don't quite remember. But he was talking about how, how we couldn't get close to Iran. The Navy ships couldn't because they were so in range of the drones and the missiles and all that. Talking about that. But then what it does is it's China doesn't even need to worry about us if they want to take Taiwan. It's what exactly are you going to do about it? You can't get a boat that close. Well, we can obviously hit it. If Iran can hit it, we can hit it. It's we lowered our posture on the global stage in a very real way. And not only did we not accomplish anything, not only did we not get anything done except kill the Ayatollah, who was replaced with his son, whose entire family was murdered in this war, which I can't imagine would make him more agreeable. But we actually are way worse off. Our military is depleted. We spent money. We spent a lot of money. We lost American lives. And they are, as far as we can tell, in the exact same position with the nuclear question. That hasn't shifted. That hasn't adjusted at all. And there's oil market's going to take a gigantic nosedive over the next few years because of this fucking stunt. So what was the point except to really just lower the profile of the empire? And it's like, that's sure what it looks like. That's what it looks like from here. I haven't really heard this spin. The only thing I've heard spun is, oh, this is actually about China. You know, the plan trusters are actually, this is about China. It's like, okay, bro. I mean, it just isn't. It just is not.
You know, I have to imagine that before this war, you know, the Russians might have been, they might be thinking to themselves like, man, if the U.S. actually wants to come on over into Ukraine, like, and they really want to fight, bring it on. We can take them in our own backyard. But there's probably a part of them that's like, maybe, you know, because we haven't really seen the limits of their power. Same with China and Taiwan. I think we can do it. I don't think there's anything they could do to stop us. But maybe now it's like not even a question. The idea of us defending Taiwan is a joke. Right. I mean, we can't even get close to the coast of Iran. And when you compare, like, not just the number, but the quality and capabilities of their anti-ship systems, I mean, it's not even, it's night and day.
And which we already knew that, but now that is demonstrated before the planet Earth. In a
now
way
Taiwan knows it, you know, exactly.
Like Goldstein wrote a study.
Taiwan knows it, and like our other allies know it. Like how, like, not to say that South Korea is some kind of superpower, but they are a pretty big ally for us over there, and they brush right up against, you know, North Korea, which is like, you know, the tip of the spear with that kind of communist empire. What's their opinion now? Trump forced them to take, I think it was Trump, forced them to take those THAAD batteries and the extra Patriot missiles. And then we're like, hey, actually, we're doing so bad in this war. We need them. So please give those to us. So we're taking them out. So it's like our allies now, see, we showed our ass to them. You know, it's like Trump has been bullying Europe and making them out to be assholes, which they are. I actually thought that was kind of based, except now, you know, you kind of needed them. He was like, you know, it's your turn to open up the strait. They're like, that's your problem. We are not involved in that. But we also showed our ass. Now, obviously, Europe can't rival us militarily. We are their military. But it shifts focus. It's like, you know, it's like the bully getting knocked out. It's like it changes the profile. Everybody sees him differently now. He doesn't have that same cachet. People who might have challenged him, you know, might not have challenged him. Maybe they will now. Maybe they won't take him seriously anymore. You know, it's like the cachet has significantly gone down. This is significant. This was sort of how we bullied the empire for the past, 80 years? Bullied the world the past 80 years. That's got to have been our MO. It's like, we're the biggest, baddest motherfucker in town and no one can touch us. It's like, that's not really true anymore. Like, it's still true, like in an all-out war, but the flex, like the power of this empire, of our military, was that we didn't really have to put people in harm's way unless we really wanted to, because we could touch you anywhere, and we still can. But it's not invincible. It's not this endless source of power that it was built up to and was the sort of general perception of it. I mean, the consequences of this like retarded war that he got us into, I mean, they're going to change. It's going to change global diplomacy. It's going to change the risk board of power for, the next 100 years. It's different now. Trump fucked us.
God dang.
But by all means, guys, vote for the GOP. This time, they're going to give you real-based policies. They'll do it this time, guys.
Yeah, it is. It's everything. Well, now, so what do you make of all the buildups? Now, on one hand, this is important that they pulled one of the 3 aircraft carriers out. On the other hand, they say they're sending in these Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles, which on one hand, okay, I got to admit, I never heard of them. And I
think he talks about this and then he kind of learns that the information wasn't 100% accurate. Let's move on a little bit down this podcast to, I think they are talking about these hypersonic missiles, which I thought was pretty interesting because I got to be honest, I didn't really know much about them. Like, I've heard them talked about quite a bit, but I wasn't really all that savvy on what they did or what their point was, but I think they get into it here. Let's see. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things that really is a difficult engineering problem. I mean, when you're talking about, steering something whose, its airframe just by necessity because of weight considerations has to be thin, relatively thin. It's not like 4 inches of steel is the airframe or something, it's like it's relatively thin. And so to maneuver that at such high speeds is actually a pretty tough engineering problem. And, the thing is, like, the United States for the longest time, and we're still not caught up on this at all. It was always interesting, like back even when I was active duty and then when I was with the DoD, we go to these intel briefings where we just sort of make sure that we're up on like enemy capabilities and whatnot and the different platforms that they're fielding. And they go through all of these missiles, these like anti-ship missiles and stuff that the Chinese and the French were putting out, the Russians are putting out. And dude, they were absolutely incredible, like offensive systems. And then we asked, like, hey, why don't we have anything like that? Because we didn't have anything like that. Like the last thing we had that we made ourselves was the Harpoon missile system, which was just a big, slow, dumb cruise missile that, was meant to shoot down or shoot at ships that, don't really have serious air defenses. We've got the Naval Strike Missile now, but the Norwegians made that. And it's decent, it's pretty good. But, for the longest, I mean, even now, if you go out on any of our cruisers or destroyers, the primary weapon that the ship has to attack other surface vessels is just its gun. That's what it's got. It's got a gun. And even the Tomahawk is really amazing in some ways, in the sense that, it's overlapping navigation systems, which, include everything from SATCOM to pre-programmed coordinates to, the ability to read the landscape itself and navigate according to that. I mean, like really, really amazing in that sense. But in terms of what it actually is, I mean, you can, if we shot a bunch of Tomahawks at some Russian S-400 systems, they'd shoot them all down. Just like our Aegis weapon system would shoot them all down. They're not particularly impressive, like, unless you're shooting at, jihadists or something like that. And so what that's meant is that like our sort of built-in institutional knowledge on the offensive, on the strike side has really deteriorated over the years to the point where now that we're trying to build hypersonics and we need a new naval strike missile upgrade and stuff, like we're having to sort of build that out on the fly because we don't have that. We've spent a huge...
Isn't that interesting? I feel like, maybe there's more people like y'all out there who know about these sort of military details. I do not. I'm not like aware of like what every cruiser is like equipped with and all that. But I was like, this is pretty fascinating. I was not aware that there's an arms race out there that we are losing, that we are not at the front of. Like I've just always under the impression it's sort of like the world was that, our military is the biggest, the baddest. We got the most technologically advanced stuff. Nobody can touch us. It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want with our military. And then you hear Darryl, who used to work for the DoD, doing like defense and missiles, like this was his gig, talking about it's like, oh no, we are very much behind on this particular cutting edge technology. That we just didn't build our military around needing these things. It's like we're very much like a carrier-based military. We don't have these different hypersonic missiles and such that our potential adversaries have. It's like shit. That is kind of concerning. I feel like I was born in the 80s and I feel like I've always lived in this sort of bubble of believing that we're pretty impenetrable militarily. Obviously 9/11 shook that, we like pretty in a real way, but it still felt different because it was terrorism. It didn't feel like a real military conflict. It didn't feel like, there was a fucking battleship off the San Francisco harbor, just like, launching shells. It was a very different type of warfare. So this is the first time in my entire life I've ever really considered that, oh, wow, there's vulnerabilities in like our military like outfitting. Like, whoa, that's just like the first time I've ever thought that. Like I've never even considered that. I can't believe that's kind of scary and fascinating.
amount of resources, huge amount of time, expertise on missile defense. We're by far the best at that. I mean, and I don't just say that because that's the field I was, involved in here in the U.S. and I'm a patriotic missile defense guy of the like it's true. Like our systems are better than anybody else's. The S-400's good. The S-500's good from what I understand, from what I know about them. But our systems are great at that. But we never really, or we stopped. I don't want to say we never, but back about 40 years ago, we stopped putting a whole lot of research and development into offensive strike systems just because, nobody had anything that could shoot down a Tomahawk. And, we're not going to need to blow up another surface ship. Like, who are we going to shoot? Like, the Chinese hadn't even begun to grow their Navy yet in the 80s and 90s.
Like I said, still pretty fascinating to think of this sort of like military game theory that we just misplayed because we're so used to just taking people out from the air or Tomahawk missiles and such. Craig Butler, you should do call-ins sometimes. Boy, oh boy, I based on the spiciness of this chat today, I don't know how that would go. It's something I'd never considered. I'll consider it. I feel like I'm just going to get a lot of idiots being like, you stupid, you don't know, Fuentes is gay. But maybe it would lead to good conversations too. I don't know. I like talking with people. I was a bartender for a long time. Like, I used to do these streams on my channel years ago. They were just kind of loose and not really politically focused necessarily, just sort of cultural, whatever, just long conversations. And we would go for hours. I mean, there were nights where it literally went for like 8 hours just bullshitting. I like talking with people. It's something I could probably pull off, but I don't know. It's not something I've ever considered. It's an interesting idea, though. I will give it some thought. I mean it. Thank you very much for the super chat, Craig Butler. I appreciate you, brother. Lord of the Ree. What's up, dog? How you doing, Lord of the Ree? Been watching Scott for a long time. He's great. I think Scott and Fuentes are the two best on foreign policy. They're the ones I listen to that have the richest catalog of knowledge. They can talk about these things, and they know all the different players, and they know the details, and they know who, the decision makers who made the decision. And when I listen to them talk, I'm just kind of always in awe. I'd love to have Scott. I'm trying to get Scott on my show. He did Rogan this week, so I feel like that's actually going to be a lot tougher. But I've met him before, and he's very cool. He's a kind of a slight man. He's unassuming. You wouldn't realize. I was like, holy shit, that's Scott Horton? Oh my god. I saw him at a comedy show last summer because he's friends with like Robbie Bernstein, Dave Smith, all that. But I saw him there, and he's a great guy. I feel like I could pull it off. It would be so sick because but he's also one of these guys like I just want to listen to. He's so smart and knowledgeable about all this stuff. I think he has a blind spot, because I mentioned this earlier. I'm working on a video that's basically going to make like a very methodic and complete case as to why why we fought the war in Iraq for Israel. Because for me, that was a relatively novel concept, only a few years. And I feel like most people are not really aware of that. I'm going to make the point. I'm going to really make the arguments. But anyway, I'm reading the Israel lobby right now. And one of the points that Mearsheimer makes is he's like, well, it wasn't just the Israelis, because there were a lot of Americans who also, a lot of American neocons who also advocated heavily for the war. And you're like, yeah, dude, those are Jews. Like, that's almost actually worse. Like, most of those guys are like, the former Trotsky turned conservative Jews for the most, on mass, like on a very large percentage. And you're like, yeah, I guess it's not all Israel. Like, there's also, the barbarians are inside the gates kind of thing. It's like it's also coming from inside the house. Like, that's actually worse. And I feel like as much as I love Scott, I feel like that's the type of connection he's not going to draw. He will point out exactly who does it, but he doesn't take that extra step that I think Nick does that really ties it all together. But he is the best, man. He's so fucking brilliant. I'm glad that he was on Rogan. I hope that raises his profile. I hope that more people watch him because I think he's just the best on foreign policy. He's so fucking smart, so knowledgeable, and is still like a pretty niche figure for as smart as he is.
The Russians are decaying. Who are we going to get into a big naval fight with? So that's, unnecessary. And so we just it's one of those things that, like, the pipeline for that whole process, if you need to develop something quickly and new, it just doesn't exist. And so we've been having to try to build that out.
Yeah. All right. So listen, we got to wrap up real quick.
All right. That is all I wanted to talk about on that podcast. I'm going to bounce around here real quick. Let's see what else we got here. Do I want to get into that? That's sort of a big thing to chew on here. This is, I've been watching this guy, and I really like his video. I think I found him via Tom Foe. Tom Foe did a video, probably 6 months ago now, where he did a video basically like bigging up other creators that he thought were badass, that had like good content. That's where I found like Jimmy Talks and a few other guys, and he pointed me to this guy, Basic Logic. I don't know if you've ever seen his content, but it's great because he just makes these short videos. They're kind of animated, then they're like kind of fun, and he talks about kind of different subjects, but in a short, punchy, well-written, entertaining way. And I have this one to share with y'all. Don't know if I have too much to talk about on it, but we'll just let it play. This guy rules.
The Strait of Hormuz is the trade route responsible for 25% of the world's seaborne oil trade, and it's been all but cut off due to the US-Iran war, leading to a global economic disaster. Oil is essential. It's not just energy production. It powers transportation, logistics, manufacturing, even food production.
Can I say something here, Ree? I'm looking at your comment about Scott, about Dave, whom I like. I think Dave is a sharp guy. I still listen to him, but I got to be honest, like, I'm a little over it. Like, as much as I like Dave, and this is ironic, but he did more to Israel J-pill me than even Fuentes did, because he's so critical of Israel and so sharp and knowledgeable about it. But I notice he kind of repeats himself a lot. Like, I've been hearing him make the same points for like years now. I'm like, okay, dude. Like, I know that these points are still relevant, but I would just appreciate like some more vectors of analysis or new details that you haven't offered up yet. It's like, I feel like he says the same shit over and over, and I'm like, all right, man, And he does this thing where he takes on people's arguments a lot on his show. Like, someone will say something, not even necessarily about him, just a bad argument, and he'll like break it down. And I'm like, he did one, I guess, recently about Gad Sad. And Gad Sad's arguments were dog shit. They were terrible. They're Hezbollah. It's all bullshit. But I just feel like it's beneath him to keep doing that. It's like, I don't even really see the point. It's like, maybe it's just to counter the narrative, but I just feel like the Hezbollah is not landing. Like, the boomers are going to believe it probably till they die, but I just feel like there's not a reason to be like, this is why his argument's wrong. It's like, nigga, we know. There's no reason to do it, but I don't think he's vegan, but he's like a shrimpy, like, skater kid, but he's awesome. I like Dave, but yeah, I'm over libertarianism. We have way too many retards for it to work. You know what I wanted to do? This is like a lofty ambition for my show, but I wanted to sit like some kind of dissident right characters, like maybe like Joey, and I'd like to watch him discuss like libertarianism with like a Tom Woods or a Scott Horton, and kind of like in a good faith way, kind of have them like discuss their different ideas, because I think that would be really productive, and I think that'd be a really good discussion. And it's like something that I have like as an ambition for my show. It's like, I don't really have the profile to make that work, but I have the dream, and I'd like to do that. I think that would be fun. I think it'd be cool as hell, because they both have such good ideas. Like, they both have, very well researched, very principled, very organized ideologies, and I'd like to see them kind of, hammer it out, because there's a lot of blind spots on the libertarian side that they still are not dealing with, and it's like, we have to deal with that. That's real. I think they generally are pretty good on foreign policy generally, but I don't know. I'm way more dissident right now, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, fuck Cuba. Like, that should be ours. Like, that's right off the coast of Florida. Like, that should not be an enemy nation, and it's too small to pose any kind of a threat. Like, yeah, let's do that. Like, I like, and all South America, quite honestly. That's how I feel. Like, I don't feel like any of those countries should be an issue for us whatsoever. And that's where we should focus our energy. I've been saying that for a long time. Like, even before I was, deeper into politics, just kind of like a reflex. It's like, this is our hemisphere. We should be focused on this. And if we have like an enemy country right off the coast, that's, how many people even live there? It's a tiny little country. So we don't have to do it necessarily militarily, but we should be smack them bitches in line and put a puppet in there. That's how that should be, I think. But anyway, I feel like the libertarians would disagree on that. I'm like, nah.
Oil gets disrupted, everything gets disrupted. So what's really behind this war that would be worth this immense cost? Killing large numbers of people is expensive and tends to be difficult to justify to the public. So major wars are never driven by a single motive. They're usually a convergence of aligned interests. In this video, I'll be focusing on just two that often go unmentioned: the petrodollar and the US-Israel alliance. The petrodollar, for those unfamiliar, is quite simple. Unlike its golden age, US manufacturing is long dead. Instead, the US maintains its massive economy through controlling market access and financiering. This is rough for the average working American, but great for the financier class. The US dollar used to be backed by gold, but now is officially backed by nothing. That's why the Fed can keep printing it out of thin air. But then how does it not lose all value as a result? Because everyone's forced to use it, if they want to buy oil. The entire Western oil trade, almost the entire world's oil trade in fact, is forced to be bought and sold in US dollars. And every time a country decided they want to sell their oil in another currency, the US thought it was time to share some democracy. This is also how the US justifies its massive defense budget. Their finances are literally dependent on their power projection. Why does this matter now? Because Iran was successfully circumventing that system, secretly selling enormous quantities of oil to China using what was literally called a shadow fleet to get around US-controlled trade, a direct threat to the petrodollar. As such, the Strait of Hormuz proved it.
See, it's funny. Like I when I'm prepping for the show, I want to make sure that we have like enough to talk about, to fill up the time. But as I'm like watching this video, I'm like, I don't really have anything to say. I just find this really interesting. I can't really contribute. It's not really a podcast or a conversation. I think I've played one of his videos before on one of the other shows. He is based as hell, though. I like his stuff a lot. He breaks a lot of good stuff down. He did something today about like white guilt and just like, absolutely eliminating it. He essentially like litigated the arguments and then dismissed them all. It was good. It was very based. It was like, oh, that's a fucking solid video. But I don't really have much more. I don't have much to comment on this. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's fun. That's interesting.
Itself to be a difficult and costly trade route to control. So what if a new trade route opened up and captured lots of the trade traffic that was originally going through the Strait of Hormuz? What if that trade route was managed by a more favored ally, perhaps even a greatest ally? Israel is in a very opportune moment. It is perfectly positioned to control the oil trade routes between 4 continents with geography alone. All it would need would be a few Saudi pipelines connecting to their port in Haifa and rails in Jordan. The only reason this hasn't happened yet is because no one's had a real need to, since the Strait of Hormuz worked fine. Until now. If this happened, it would turn Israel into the Rotterdam of oil, a position so privileged even Israel's own officials are calling this a rare window of opportunity and
See, the thing is, especially nowadays, like if we're discussing the Middle East and we're discussing our conflicts there and our adventurism there, and we're not discussing Israel and its influence on these conflicts, like I don't even want to hear from you. I'm not interested in that at all. Like I said, I'm working on that Iraq War video. I'm doing some research and I found this guy's video and he's basically breaking it down. And I was like, oh, maybe someone did the job better than I did. And he doesn't even fucking mention Israel. Literally doesn't even mention the country or the Israel lobby, not one time. And you're like, dude, leading up to that war, literally all 3 living Israeli prime ministers advocated for it. All of them. Like Ariel Sharon, Ehud Barak, and Netanyahu. All of them advocated for it. The entire Israel lobby was lockstep with it. They even outright said there was a memo that went around to these different Jewish lobbies to tone it down about being pro-Iraq because they didn't want to associate being pro-Iraq as an Israeli operation. And you made this whole video about why we went to Iraq war. It's called like the Iraq War Explained. Doesn't mention Israel. You're like, it doesn't get a mention. Like Netanyahu went to Congress and lobbied for us to do it. You know, Ariel Sharon was like, better do it soon because the time, that window might close. And it was funny, like in this book, Mearsheimer makes the argument that the Bush administration wasn't even all that hot on Iraq before they went. They weren't even really all that concerned with it. It wasn't really an issue for them. And then we go and fight it. And so same thing with this Iran war. And I feel like that's not that common because it's impossible to ignore. But it's like if you're not talking about Israel's involvement in this Iran war, if that's not in the conversation, or you're not talking about Greater Israel or any of that, it says like, bro, we're done. I don't have any time for this. Like, I need to have I need real information. You just dancing around something uncomfortable is like, bro, I got shit to do.
Strategic windfall, and that brings me to the second motivation. Political support for Israel.
No, Fuentes is not going to be on this show, and none of them are going to be on this show. They're just the subjects of the show. Maybe I should have. I was thinking about that when I put that thumbnail out. I'm like, no one really thinks I got Scott Horton, Rebecca Hargraves, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes on the same show, right? Like, no one would actually think that. But it does kind of look like that's what I'm saying. Like, hey, they're all here. It's like none of them are here. They're just the subjects of the conversation. On my show on Foul Ball Productions, I always do them with this kind of gold filter, so it's obvious that that's the subject and not who's on the show. But, you're like, hey, is Nick here? No, Nick's not doing the show, much to my chagrin. Although I'm sure the chat would, they'd melt down. They're like, no, Zeb, no. Why? We hate him. He's a gay cat boy. All right, it's not clickbait. It's literally not. It's the subject, but okay, man, whatever.
For debatable reasons, many Americans are in love with Israel. So if this war helps Israel, it's easy to justify it as a moral crusade. But it also creates...
Lord of the Rings, Dave and Scott will mention they're Israeli, but they don't ever say the J word. They never, almost ever say the J word. I noticed them brushing up a little bit closer, at least Dave's brushing up a little bit closer, but I think their point is always like, well, hey, listen, some of the most Israel critical people are like Dave Smith and Robbie Bernstein and Norman Finkelstein, so it's like, it's not all Jews, and you're like, I don't think anyone's saying it's all Jews. Like, what kind of a stereotype could apply to literally every single person on earth? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't need to be all. It doesn't even need to be most. It just needs to be a significant enough number that it's observable and it's a problem. Like, it's like, that's very liberal thinking. It's just like, we have a problem with black crime. It's like, what about all the black people that don't commit crime? It's like, what about them? I don't care. It's like, that's not the point. There is a problem with black crime. It's disproportionately represented. Well, not every single black guy does it. It's like, that's not the point. And I think they do the same thing with the kind of the JQ, with the Israel connection. It's like, there's just too many Americans who are not Israeli who have an affinity for this country and act on its behalf. And what is the reason for that? Do only Jews do that? No, but the people who do are widely overrepresented, and it just needs to be observed. It's not hate. It's not fucking anti-Semitism. It's reality. It's the reality. No.
It's an interesting opportunity. What I'm going to discuss now is an unlikely scenario. But the fact that it's even on the table warrants discussions. What if down the line, after Israel takes control of the oil trade, they betray America and start selling oil in shekels? In one singular move, the US financial system is on the brink of collapse, and Israel elevates itself to a world power, especially if they secure an alliance of a larger nation of manufacturing. like India. It'd be near impossible for the US to justify a war against Israel, especially to their pro-Israel base, after just fighting a war for them. The more likely outcome, though, is a long-term US-Israel axis, with the US directly controlling the oil in the Americas and Israel controlling the rest. The entire world will be forced to engage in the current financial system, no matter how corrupt or predatory it becomes. The only ones outside their control would be the Russo-Chinese alliance, but they would not be able to stockpile enough oil to ever be able to be a threat, and therefore, any possible resistance would be contained, because don't forget, fighting wars requires oil.
See, I like this guy a lot. I think he does great work. I would recommend that. Basic Logic is the name of that channel. He does really good stuff. And like I said, he did something about white guilt today, so I recommend it. He's good, and it's quick. It's punchy. It's very digestible content. You don't need to invest much energy or time into it. Yeah, the only thing that I've left to get into. All right, I'll play. You know what? I'll play a little bit more of this last video, and then we'll call it a night. I was going to break down the Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massie conversation, but honestly, I don't have the stomach for that right now. It's long, and I pulled a bunch of clips, and it's a very involved conversation. Honestly, I'm fucking tired. So let's. This is fun. So I was talking about this guy James Atlas earlier in the show. I told about how he has that video that disproves like King Leopold's ghost, that sort of accusation that the Belgians in the Congo were mutilating the Congolese and massacring them by the tens of millions. There's a bigger genocide than the Holocaust or whatever, and he basically destroys the whole thing. Well, this is another video by the same guy, excuse me, about Mansa Musa. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of who he is, but they love him on Reddit. Oh, our history, they love him. So let's play a little bit of this video. I think it's kind of fun. It's too long to actually play the whole thing, but we're going to play a little bit of it. You can finish it on your own. It's a good time.
One of the most ridiculous fun facts which has spread across the internet in the last decade is the claim that Mansa Musa, the king of Mali in the 1300s, was the richest man in history, who gave away so much gold on his pilgrimage to Mecca that he crashed the Egyptian economy. You've probably seen this repeated all over social media, including in Reddit posts, comment sections, on YouTube, and in history articles. If you go into Google and search out richest man in history, or ask ChatGPT, Mansa Musa is the standard answer. So I think it's fair to say this supposed fact has become as much a part of common historical knowledge as the fact that Caesar was a great general or Einstein was highly intelligent.
And that's the funny thing is I was sharing, I shared the King Leopold's ghost video with my buddies, and I was telling them, I was like, this is not something I ever even thought to question. You know, it's not something I ever like gave any critical thought to. It's, you know what I mean? Like there's a certain point, I guess, where you realize you're in the Matrix and everything's a lie, but like you'd have to go back and relearn the whole world. And there's certain facts that you just absorb and accept, and they're just there now. And it's not something that I ever scrutinized. It's not something I ever looked into either, but it was not something I ever questioned. The Mansa Musa thing, you kind of have like an instinct. You're like, probably not though, right? But probably not though. But the one about King Leopold and the Congolese genocide, I just took that as that's fact. I don't know. Like I never thought to question it, but this guy did like really good work. I mean, it's like a full-on documentary. It's like an hour and a half long. My only critique is that he talks a lot, like it's narrated, and he puts lots of stuff on the screen that you'd also want to read. So it's actually kind of hard. You have to keep pausing the video to read the screen and then go on. It's not the best presentation I've ever seen. In that the visuals don't really work in tandem with the narration, but the information is great.
Normally I wouldn't care very much about idiots being wrong about something, but the problem with the story of Mansa Musa is what people extrapolate from it, which has real-world consequences we'll discuss later in the video. As any person with more than a passing knowledge of history is aware, Sub-Saharan West Africa was extremely primitive and underdeveloped compared to the rest of the world in the Middle Ages. And the idea that an ambiguously sized African kingdom with backwards technology, no great cities, a small population, and limited productive capacity, stuck on the wrong side of the Sahara Desert, could somehow have produced the richest man in world history just makes no sense on its face.
It is funny, right? It's like you just ask like one follow-up question, or you just look at the geography and you're like, really? How exactly? It's like it immediately starts to not make sense just by asking one follow-up question.
These people lived in huts made out of mud, had no written records or two-story buildings, and their metalworking was inefficient and uncommon, with most tools and implements being Stone Age technology. Their naval progress stopped with dugout canoes.
I'm completely shipping Candy and Nick. I'm shipping them. I like to see the kind of the bridge being mended a little bit. There's just like a little back and forth, you know, stealing glances. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it. What's up, GeoGaster? How you doing, brother? Welcome to the show.
Didn't have the wheel, or carts, or paved roads, and all of our knowledge of their affairs comes from a handful of Arabic travelers and historians.
Isn't it crazy when you learn something that you're like, not a single culture in sub-Saharan Africa invented the wheel or written language? Not a single one. You're like, okay, they're different. Like, you have to be honest. If this is, what are we doing? Like, there's cultures in Europe that didn't really develop a written language, like Slavic wasn't, like, I don't think they had like a written language. I think it was all just oral for a long time. And they actually, a lot of these like cultures actually like wrote like papers and books in German because that was the written language that they knew. But man, I mean, that's crazy. No culture with the written word or a wheel. That's nuts. That's right, Zeb. Why haven't you liked the stream? That's true. Give it an algorithmic boost, why don't you?
It's kind of like they were playing Civ 5, but just decided to ignore the tech tree and not research anything, staying in the ancient era while everybody else was busy advancing. We actually don't know.
That's another thing too. It's like when you realize you hear like not liberal, you know, lib-washed history, you're like, look, the Native Americans, like, it's not great to slaughter people, but when you're like they were prehistoric, you're like, these guys arrived on galleons, on these giant like engineering marvels, these ships, and like this is prehistory. You guys are like trapped in time. It's like, you know, you have the resources here, you haven't done anything with it.
Where the capital of the Mali Empire was, or even if there was a permanent capital. So I guess a more apt comparison would be a game of Civ where you never found a city and just walk around the map for thousands of years doing nothing until somebody else wins. Now this might sound critical or mean, but it is the reality of the situation on the ground in West Africa, especially prior to the proliferation of Muslim Arab traders. All of this was common historical knowledge up until relatively recently, but it has become unfashionable to talk honestly about the state of sub-Saharan African civilization, especially in cultural institutions like schools and media. There is an unspoken agreement to spare the feelings of black people by not mentioning that sub-Saharan Africa was practically Neolithic from the classical era until the development of sophisticated European colonies. But this politeness has led to an environment where younger people will hear that the king of Mali was the richest person of all time and just accept it as totally plausible, which it isn't. So that's a bit of historical context, but before we start examining specific sources to assess the truth of the Mansa Musa story, it's
What was that clip that was going around? It was like some black dude, and he was talking to a couple other like Africans or whatever. And he's like, I think it was about Swahili. He's like, there's no word for maintenance. Like, it doesn't exist. We don't have it in our, there's no, the concept doesn't even exist. And I think it was Carl Benjamin Sargon who covered a video, excuse me, of this African woman talking about time and how Africans literally have like a different mental concept of time. And you're like, bro, like, it's different. Like, it's different. At the very least, it's, can we just be honest about this? We have to like take all this stuff, and you're just supposed to be like, nope, I don't even notice that it's they didn't invent the wheel or the written language. Nope, that's probably colonialism did that. It's like, oh my God, folks.
Important we look at the origin and motivation for its spread. Like all lowbrow pop history, ignorant midwits on Reddit are largely responsible for parroting the claim. I'm sure they feel very virtuous when they tell their racist uncle that actually Africa wasn't always a hellhole. It was home to high civilizations like the Mali Empire and the fabulously wealthy King Mansa Musa until evil white colonists pillaged the continent.
Wasn't that the thing, Smelly Balls, where it was that the highest structure on the entire continent was an ant colony? You're like, come on, guys, you know. And look, like there are evolutionary reasons and sort of realistic. Like there's certain things. I was watching. This was Thomas Sowell's analysis about this, and he was talking about how it's like there's no pack animals on the entire continent. That's why those women always carry shit on their head, because there's no pack. There's no like burros or donkeys, and the tributaries, like the river systems that they have, are not nearly as intricate as the ones in Europe. And like trading information was how Europe was a big part of why Europe was able to, technologically advance so much faster than the rest of the world. And you're like, yeah, those are certainly real. There's an intelligence quotient angle too. That has something to do with it, man. You just have to deal with this on its face. Lying about it doesn't help anybody.
It shouldn't surprise anyone then that the Mansa Musa myth was first introduced to a mass audience in 2012 by the ultimate pop history Reddit midwit, John Green of Crash Course.
This guy is so soy. He is so, like, he's spiritually a woman and is one of these guys who just is the most, like, racism and, like, white people. Like, he's one of these. I used to watch his stuff. He had this the series. Forgot what it was called, something history. And it was, a lot of it was really interesting. And it was a great presentation too. Like they did really good music with their animations and everything like that. But once he got into the American one, then I realized who this guy really is. Like so critical about America and just this negative characterization of like our whole history, and like you fucking I'm like, wow, I bet I should probably throw into question everything else I watched before this, because he did like world history first and then American history. And then I remember I was like I'm like, oh, well then, yeah, if this is what you're saying about the United States, like what was all that shit I consumed about world history? That must have been really questionable too, or thrown into a light that we, must be screwed, like downplay Europe, raise up every other culture. I'm guilty white man. It's like these guys, like, did they kill like a hooker one night? Like, why are they so guilty? Why do they have such guilt? You like, even if you feel that like colonialization and slavery and Jim Crow were all atrocities, even if that's your position, you stand there like it was the worst thing ever. It's like you didn't actually do it though. You didn't go and like, kill Indians. Like, why are you so guilty? Like what? Like you didn't do it. It's crazy.
History.
So there was this king, Mansa Musa, who ruled the West African Empire of Mali, and in 1324-ish, he left his home and made the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. He brought with him an entourage of over 1,000 people, some sources say 60,000, and most importantly, 100 camel loads of gold. I wish it had been donkeys so I could say he had 100 ass loads of gold, but no, camels, right. So along the way, Mansa Musa spent freely and gave away lots of his riches. Most famously, when he reached Alexandria, at the time one of the most cultured cities in the world, he spent so much gold that he caused runaway inflation throughout the city that took years to recover from. He built houses.
Sorry, my mistake, Lord of the Rings. I apologize. Listen, your battlefield accolades are widely known.
In Cairo and in Mecca to house his attendants, and as he traveled through the world, a lot of people, notably the merchants of Venice, no thought bubble, like actual merchants of Venice, right? They saw him in Alexandria and returned to Italy with tales of Mansa Musa's ridiculous wealth, which helped create the myth in the minds of Europeans that West Africa was a land of gold, an El Dorado, the kind of place you'd like to visit, and maybe, in 5 centuries or so, begin to pillage. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So what's so important about the story of Mansa Musa?
Like, you just see that animation, right? It's just look at the guilt. Just look at the white guilt. Oh, they're so evil. And these poor, oh no. And it's like, then you look into these societies and you're like, they're bloody savages. Like, it's not because they wear loincloths, it's because they're cannibals. And they butcher each other and maim them and cut their arms off and like wear them as fucking trophies. They're savages. Like, what? There's like this famous image of the British in India. And it's like, I think it's in some museum. I may have even seen it in person. I don't remember. But it's like these British guys are tying these Indian dudes to cannons, and that's how they would execute them. And you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. It's like, yeah, they did that because the locals were doing that to the British. And because they were Muslims and they believe that if your body was like destroyed, then you wouldn't get into heaven or whatever the fuck they think. And so they were doing it in retaliation to like quell uprisings, but they only show it as if the British is doing it. They're so evil. It's like, oh my God, our entire fucking history has just been raped. It's not true.
5 centuries or so begin to pillage. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So what's so important about the story of Mansa Musa? Well, first, it tells us that there were African kingdoms ruled by fabulously wealthy African kings, which undermines one of the many stereotypes about Africa, that its people were poor and lived in tribes ruled by chiefs and witch doctor.
This video has over 5 million views on YouTube, and as educational material, it has undoubtedly shaped the perceptions and worldviews of countless students. At my school, teachers would frequently use crash course videos just like this one, and as we will see, it is presenting totally false and biased information.
Crash course, that's what it's called. That's right. That's right. I used to like I told you, I used to like this stuff. I thought it was really interesting. I was watching it like, yeah, it's 12 years old. Like I was probably watching it, yeah, back then, like 2012. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like I like history. Like this is, oh wow, this lesser known things about like Indian trade and shit. I didn't know. And it's like, yeah, now I feel like I have to scrutinize all that now. Not that I even remember most of it, because it was so long ago, but it's just like, yeah, no, you're a bad faith historian. And bad faith historians, I mean, that's so evil. It's basically like warping your reality. It's like completely misshaping your actual reality and how you interact with the world, how you interact with like your own lineage and your people and your country moving forward. I think it's a real sin to be a disingenuous historian or a lying historian. That's evil, bro.
In order to pretend that African civilization was advanced and impressive. The wonderful thing about this clip is it exposes the psychology prompting guilt-ridden white liberals and coping black people to laugh.
That's actually a good point, Luther. It's not bad faith if he believes the delusions. That's actually a good point, you know. The difference, I think the way you can suss people out, though, is like if they're willing to engage with information or data. If they're not, then it is bad faith, because now what they're operating on is actual like faith. Like it's like when you talk to an atheist. It's like an atheist can't disprove God. All he can do is, you know, make arguments against the church or, you know, the books or what, but he can't, there's no way he can disprove God. The only thing he can do is just not believe. But what that is just that's the inverse of faith. That's still a belief he's clinging on to. So it's like it's literally just he has faith in this idea because he can't prove it. And it's the same thing with a lot of these people, especially like libs, you know, and like real like leftists and stuff like that. Like it's a religion. There's a religious aspect to it. There's a faith in it that they believe in a way that just no new information can affect it. Now, if you're dealing with someone like that, then it is bad faith. If it's someone just is ignorant, you know, this is what they believe, and they can be swayed with new information, and they can have discussions, it's like, okay, that's not bad faith, but I totally hear what you're saying. Oh. Just throwing that out there. Words, Zeb.
Latch onto the idea of a rich and successful black African kingdom. They're so eager to repudiate the boogeyman of white supremacy, which is based on the observation of European technological, economic, and scientific excellence, that they will shamelessly twist and misinterpret historical records to construct an alternate narrative in which sub-Saharan Africa was rich, developed, and advanced. Also, you might not have noticed, but during this segment, Green has a sticker on his laptop reading, "This machine kills fascists." Of course, this is just dumb LARPing, because John Green obviously isn't physically or mentally capable of killing anybody, but
I will say, it's obviously cringe and gay to have that on your laptop, but that's a reference. I think that's a reference to Woody Guthrie. I think he was like a folk singer in the 60s, around the time of like when Bob Dylan was coming up, and I think he had that on his guitar. So it's still gay and lame, I understand that, but there's another layer to it. It's like it is a reference. I'm not defending it. I'm not on board with the message. Don't get it twisted. I'm just saying. I think the narrator, what's his name? John Atlas. I keep forgetting his name. He's based. I should remember. James Atlas he's a little off on that one.
all the complaining about how evil white people are wasn't sufficient. This is more proof that the guy is a far-left weirdo. Anyway, back to the history. Luckily for us, the ridiculous story of Mansa Musa is very, very simple to debunk. West African history is an unusually accessible field due to the fact that so few primary sources actually exist. There are 4 main primary sources from which all of our knowledge of medieval Mali and West Africa comes around the time.
Yeah, they didn't have primary sources because there was no written language or impulse to record their own history or even think of the concept of a library. That's why it's hard to verify, because there's no primary sources, because there was no civilization to speak of.
With Mansa Musa. These sources are the travelers Ibn Battuta and Leo Africanus, and the
our atlas is just the Wigger version. James is the erudite WASP version.
historians Ibn Khaldun and Ibn al-Umari. There are later sources who mention Mali and Mansa Musa, like the Egyptian historian al-Makrizi, but their work seems to be substantially based on the other 4 men that I just mentioned, and they didn't have first-hand information. I read everything that these 4 sources had to say about Mali, which didn't take very long because they spent most of their thousands of combined pages of work discussing actually relevant and interesting parts of the world. I probably spent more time trying to find good translations than actually reading. We'll start with the traveler Leo Africanus, who allegedly went to Mali in the 1500s, which is already 200 years after Mansa Musa was king. This makes him a pretty poor source, but we can get some insight into what life was like there, and if the king...
I wish I wrote down any time codes for this, because this was a last-minute addition to my little prep sheet, but there is a fact in here that, oh, God, I just want to get to so badly. It's just, it sums it all up. It's the complete, you're like, there it is. There it fucking is. It's so funny because it's like, I don't want to, because it's like, you're like, yeah, of course.
The kingdom of Mali was truly wealthy enough to have produced the richest man in history. Leo gives us a brief history of sub-Saharan Africa, beginning with,
the cosmographers began to acquire some details of these lands, where all the people lived as animals. They had no king, rulers, republic,
based,
or even any culture, and scarcely knew how to sow grain. They went about clothed in the skins of their flocks. A man had no particular wife.
Dude, I mean, obviously this point is made, and I am preaching to the choir here with this one, but I have to say it because I was like, what? This was back during the pandemic. I was in LA and I was basically, trapped. I was a prisoner in that city. And so I would just break out and take these little trips. I took a trip out to basically the Grand Canyon, but I went to Phoenix first. And I went to the museum of musical instruments. It's actually pretty cool. If you're ever in Phoenix, it's worth checking out. It's just like a really fascinating kind of history. And they have it's broken down by region and country. And you go to like the Africa thing, and it's like, you got your African instruments, and it's like, there's like a gourd with a string on it. Like literally, I mean, these are they're gourds with like string. There's like more advanced from like different cultures, but there's a lot where it's like, this is as rudimentary as it could get. And you go over to the European side, and at the same time in history, there up into including present day, like the Europeans were inventing the piano, which was like an engineering feat, something I never gave any thought to. But they had to come up with this piece of bronze that could like withstand the tension of like 20,000 pounds of tension on it, because it was like so many, all those strings that are like, the attached to the keys of the piano are tied into this like giant cast piece of bronze, and it was like an engineering feat for them to accomplish it. And at the same time, over here, they got fucking gourds with a string 500 years later. You're like, what am I supposed to do with these facts? I'm just supposed to not observe them and not connect the dots to the people that inhabited those cultures? Like, we're not supposed to observe that at all. We're not supposed to deal with that. Like, it's such a lie. Like, it's like cultural, it's like global gaslighting.
But instead, the men, women, and children of a farmstead would go together all day to work, pasturing their animals, and then return home at night together, around 10 or 12 of them, sleeping under some sheepskins in a hut. They did not go to war or leave their own lands.
So, not a great start. Certainly doesn't sound very wealthy to me. But maybe things improve. Africanus claims that the Black West Africans began converting to Islam, and
The inhabitants of Barbary, that is the Burghers, took up traveling to the land of the blacks for trade and learned their language. As a result,
Land of the Blacks. That's going to refer to Detroit from now on. The land of the blacks.
they divided these lands among themselves into 15 kingdoms, such that each corresponded to a third of one of the Libyan tribes. It remains so even today, with the exception of the current king of Timbuktu, Abu Bakr Askia. He came from the black people.
GeoGasser with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, brother. If you based the value of society on its scientific and cultural wealth, would you agree German people are... I like how you had to put the superior apart, and you had to change the different letters to make sure that went through. That I don't even know if that's up for debate or conversation. The widespread influence of the German people was something that was so universal. I was mentioning it earlier. I don't know if you were here, but it was in Eastern Europe, Czech Republic area, that, whatever that empire was at the time, the Slavic languages were not written down. They all wrote and read in German, because the German language was it was a written language and they didn't have one. So they all used it. So even people who were criticizing the Germans to leave the Czech lands and get out, they wrote those in German because they didn't have their own language. And they're just influence in technology and beer. I mean, there's a diaspora. There's always that joke, right, about South America having Nazis in it that left after World War II. But there's also a very real reality that there already were big German populations down there that were influential. And, it's aren't all now this I don't know, it's something I've just heard, but aren't all the royal lineages, aren't they all German? Isn't that all German blood? I don't actually know about this, but I thought so. It's I don't even really know what the counter argument is. I mean, the Nazis made such a good machine gun in World War II, they still use it today. They still use a very close cousin to the MG42. They nailed it 80 years ago, or however long they invented it, probably more 90. That's a pretty good machine gun. Have we had this much technological advancement? And it's fine. It doesn't need to be improved on. That's a good gun. That's a solid gun. But thank you for the super chat, Gio. I appreciate you, brother.
So, if Africanus is to be believed, Muslim Libyans founded the West African kingdoms, and rulership in medieval times was split between them and some black monarchs. Africanus then goes on to list and describe the 15 kingdoms, which is largely repetitive but does have some interesting information. For example, he first describes the kingdom of Walata, writing,
Compared to other kingdoms, this one is in a poor state, for its only settlement comprises 3 large villages and some date farms with a few huts.
It appears that the criteria being used for a kingdom includes 3 villages and a date farm, which gives us an idea.
What a kingdom! It spans from here to right over there. This is our kingdom. 3 villages and a date farm. Okay, kingdom might be a bit strong to describe that.
Of the scale and development that is being discussed here. In Europe or Asia, the smallest independent polity we have a word for is city-state. But even this is too grand for what is being described, because there is no city in the kingdom of Walata. Leo Africanus continues describing this so-called kingdom, writing,
The women and men go about with their faces covered, and their settlements have no culture, craftsmen or scholars. Their lives are wretched and poor.
I'll spare you the summaries of the other 14 kingdoms, but suffice to say, most are supposedly ruled by Libyans and consist of a few villages, with any notable buildings being the work of foreigners. Africanus claims almost the entirety of the black population is illiterate, and they live as simple farmers or hunter-gatherers while foreign traders inhabit the settlements. All manufactured goods such as forged metal and cloth are allegedly imported from across the Sahara. Now, while he is critical of the general civilizational development, Africanus does mention that some of the kings are very wealthy. In fact, he said...
Here we go. Yes! This was the whole reason I wanted to play this video. Because it's great. He's thorough. He's very well researched. You can tell he does a lot of work. In his King Leopold video, he like makes a effort to debunk that. And what a scoundrel the man who wrote that book is. Let me just see if I can just get that guy's name. I forgot what his name was. The guy who wrote the book. Oh, Adam Hochschild. Adam Hochschild wrote a book disparaging the white European civilization of Belgium. That's an interesting curiosity right there. What do you know? Probably just a coincidence.
It's about the city of Gao that...
Aren't they all? 6 million coincidences. That was lazy.
Countless foreign merchants are to be found in the city, as well as those from the Black Land who bring huge amounts of gold to buy the goods of Barbary in Europe. But they always have more money than there are things to buy. Most of these merchants return to their lands with half or 2/3 of their money, unable to find enough goods to purchase.
GeoGasser for $5. Thank you, brother. To this day, there are words in Polish like radius, I don't know, I don't speak Polish. That means town hall that are based on German Rathaus, that German introduced political organization. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing as Rome, right? Caesar. Caesar was a dude's name. It was Julius Caesar. That was his name. It didn't mean king. They just it'd be like if I became, president, they just called all the presidents Fowlers. It's just like the Fowler of Rome. It's like, it's literally his last name. And so it's like but now it's like we still have a border czar. We have czars now. That's the Russian of Caesar. Powerful civilizations will impact culture permanently. There's just no way around it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. That's a good little detail, too.
Keep in mind that Mansa Musa's vast wealth is allegedly proven by the enormous amount of gold that he traveled with. This excerpt here from Leo Africanus is our first hint at the seed of truth from which the Mansa Musa myth has sprouted. West Africa in the Middle Ages did indeed have massive quantities of gold. Before the Spanish began shipping it in from the New World, approximately half to 2/3 of the gold found in Europe and the Middle East originated from West Africa. At first, this sounds impressive because it implies that West Africa had advanced systems to facilitate gold extraction and trade. My first thought upon learning this fact was that there must have been structurally sound mines where organized workers with pickaxes toiled away in the darkness. For example, look at this diagram of European mines in the early 1700s. Now, I found this quite surprising, as all my other research on sub-Saharan West Africa seemed to contradict such complexity existing. However, upon further investigation, I discovered that this gold was not found deep underground like in Europe, requiring thoughtfully designed mines and skillfully crafted tools, but was instead found in what are called alluvial deposits. Alluvial gold refers to gold which has been exposed by the flow of rivers or other natural events, and gathering it is simply a matter of picking it up off of the ground.
It was in the ground. They picked the gold up. It was just littering the ground. The richest man in history, the most wealthy kingdom, and that's all ever lived, is because they picked the gold up off the ground and then did nothing with it. Built nothing. Created no infrastructure. Lasted with no. The only structure I think is like there's a mosque or something that like the Arabs built in that area under his kingdom, but nothing. Not one building. Didn't invest in like literacy or medicine or skills of any kind. Just you picked it up out of the ground, and that made him rich and did dick with his wealth. Is that detail not fascinating? I was like, oh my God, that really just sums it all up right there. Because it's like they quote this, they love this. It's like, well, yeah, I guess it technically might even be true. It's like, yeah, if you lived in a place where gold was literally sprouting out of the ground and you had the land, I guess, yeah, you'd be rich. But it's extremely misleading. It's so misleading. Makes it sound like they had this vast empire and like mines and sophisticated like forms of trade. No, literally just carried gold with them and then blew it. Geogazer for $5. Let's fucking go. Since you mentioned guns, STG 44 and Luger are both pieces of timeless peak gun design. Fucking, we still use, that's the 9mm round as a Luger round. Right? It's just permanently, that's just part of guns. 9mm is like the most common handgun ammunition, I think. German. Luger. It's a 9mm Luger. It's called that. What was the STG 44? Was that what the AK was inspired by? I don't know necessarily. I don't know my guns quite as well. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, that's the one that inspired the AK. Yeah. I mean, they kind of stole it. But apparently it wasn't as... There is something to be said about German engineering, that they over-engineer shit. Like, did you ever see that gun from the 80s? I think that was German. It might not have been German now that I'm thinking about it. But it was that gun that, like, had caseless ammunition. So it didn't have to, like, it would, like, fire off this, like, block. It would like slice off metal and fire it off like that. I think that's how it worked. Or it had like, it was maybe just like formless. They were like in this kind of formless magazine. They didn't have like cases, so it'd be more efficient. But the internal mechanism was like, it was like a Swiss watch. It was like, what if something breaks in the field, which it probably will. Like, it was the most complex thing. That's something the Germans, they over-engineer shit. Ask anybody who's owned a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz. You need to change the oil. For some reason, you have to take off the rear bumper. That's crazy. They are good engineers, and they over-engineer like crazy. But yeah, no, those guns are, obviously hugely influential.
Maybe using a simple pan to separate it from water and silt. In fact...
Also Glock, right? I mean, that's an Austrian company. It's in the, same people. So it's also pretty influential.
There is no evidence of any sort of industrious mining operations in West Africa. They were blessed to have vast quantities of the most coveted material on Earth simply lying on the ground, ready to be picked up, or at most requiring a simple pit to be dug. Funnily enough, picking up this alluvial gold is still a major industry in Mali and other nearby countries. You would expect them to have gotten a little more sophisticated in the last 1,000 years, but apparently they were too busy running away from lions or something. Anyway, this gold, along with salt deposits, is what attracted traders from across the Sahara, who went on to found...
Just coming out of the ground. The gold was just coming out of the ground. The richest man in all the world. How did he acquire his wealth? Oh, well, he tripped over it. He literally stubbed his toe on a gold deposit. Oh, wow. Quite the influential kingdom.
Cities and set up political structures, facilitating the trade of the unbelievable wealth which the Africans had littering the ground.
That's a good point, Rowan. Yes, they do. Wonderful knives. I have some Wusthof knives myself. They are very, very good. I like that carbon steel.
Around them. If any group of Europeans or Arabs or Asians had been so lucky to literally spawn on top of an unlimited amount of the most valuable material in the world, protected from outside threats by a vast desert and with all the natural resources one could possibly want, they would have undoubtedly constructed a magnificent civilization. This isn't what the West Africans did, though. They were content to allow Arab traders to profit from their incredible resources, trading their gold and salt for imported goods instead of developing local industries. They never formed an organized state or acted proactively and with foresight, but instead squandered the unbelievable opportunities afforded to them. For a time, they attracted intrepid foreigners who crossed the Sahara to build settlements and monuments, but once the New World gold made this trade redundant, the foreigners left and West Africa slipped right back into a primitive state indistinguishable from before they arrived. We've covered Leo Africana.
Like, born on a literal, not even a gold mine. That's actually that's not accurate to describe that as a gold mine. You don't even have to mine for it. You trip over it, it's everywhere. You pan for it in the river, or you dig a little pit, and you have the most valuable substance known to man in glorious abundance. And you couldn't even build a modicum of a civilization. Like, it's different. It's different, man. Like it's like that's like like when you do a character creation and you like hack it so you max out all your stats. I mean, that's the equivalent for like a civilization as far as resources is concerned. Is there any civilization on Earth that was that lucky? I guess South America, right? They had all the gold. But to be fair to them, they weren't really trading with Europe until the conquistadors arrived. So maybe there wasn't a big market for it. They couldn't necessarily get rich. I don't really know much about like ancient South American history, but I mean that's crazy, dude. That's crazy to be born with that much gold, and there's nothing you could even point to. This was the Middle Ages, too. This wasn't like prehistory. The Parthenon is still up, for Christ's sake. They still use the aqueduct in Rome. They still use it. A structure built 2,000 years ago, still functional. They're not one from the richest civilization in the history of the planet. Oh, my God.
And our other traveler who ventured to Mali personally is Ibn Battuta, who was a Berber born in modern-day Morocco. He visited West Africa in the mid-1300s and met Mansa Suleiman, who was the brother and successor of Mansa Musa. Battuta is not particularly descriptive, but there are some interesting insights in his account. First of all, he writes about the significant gold and salt.
All right, I'm going to just wrap it up there. We're approaching 3 hours, so I think that's going to do it for the what's called the MFR podcast. This isn't that. That's my show that I do during the week. But this was Right Wing Pulse for you. Barring any more fuck ups, barring the fucking ceiling spouting water or some other catastrophe, I will be back next Sunday. We'll have to see what type of conversations pop up over the week that we can talk about. There's usually something spicy, usually something interesting. I will be back on my channel Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central. The MFR podcast. I don't have a guest scheduled. I do have a guest. My buddy Leon will be popping on for Thursday, I think. I haven't confirmed with him, but as it stands now, he should be on there. But I'll be rolling solo. Don't know what I'm going to be talking about. Going to have to see what the news delivers. But, safe to say it'll be fun. It'll be spicy. It'll be interesting. So go on over to Foulball Productions and Survive. I had, I know this is a sensitive subject in this goddamn chat, but I had Basil's friend, Nick Fuentes' friend Basil on the other day. And he's a fucking riot, dude. He's a hoot. He's so funny. I feel like a lot of you are not going to like him, but I had a blast talking to him. He's hilarious. GeoGaster for $5. You're the fucking man, dude. Thank you very much. They over-engineer, but somehow SIG went bust when it decided to become American. Shamefully for us. Czech gun designs also gives me butterflies. I'm not that much of a gun nerd. I know like a little bit about it, but when you start to like see guys online, I'm like, oh, I don't know any of that shit, And I have a very modest gun collection. But no, I mean that is a shame. That stupid fucking pistol. There's a SIG. God, what is it called? Something 350, P350 or something. I forgot the name of it, but I was gonna get it for like an everyday carry, like conceal, because it was slick and it had. Because I have a Glock 45, but it's too bulky to carry every day. I like it, but it's like it's a hassle. I want something slim, something I can, something that won't bother me. But I was looking at, there was some SIG. I forgot what it's called. I can't remember. I'm the worst. But yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, it's supposed to be. I liked it. I fired it. I thought it was great. And I have a fucking buttload of 9mm ammo. So yeah, it won't kill you. That's a fact. That's actually a good point. Yeah, I won't accidentally kill myself. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of Right Wing Pulse. It was fun. It was stimulating. It was intellectually stimulating. There was obviously a lot of not Nick Fuentes fans here, but hey, I am, and I'm voting Democrat in the midterms, bitch, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So come on and watch the MFR podcast on Tuesday night and Thursday, 7 and 8 respectively. We'll have a good time over there too. I'll see you guys next week. Y'all have a fantastic frickin' evening.
I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue.
I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel.
I want to cut my cock off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high.
It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism.
You're always confronted with the same stupid question, does Israel have a right to exist? Does Israel have a right to exist? The real question at this point is whether the rest of the world has an obligation to put an end to this.